All right, so imagine this. You're trying to keep a university going strong, right? Make sure they've got enough students coming in, using your resources well, and really helping those students succeed.
Yeah, that's a big challenge these days.
It is big time. And so what if there was a way to get a real leg up in dealing with those issues? And what if it didn't have to cost a fortune?
That's what always catches my attention is when you can find those really effective solutions that don't necessarily require a huge budget.
Yeah, that's what's so cool about what we're looking at today. We've got this report, and it's called Improving Enrollment by Leveraging Free and Low-Cost AI Solutions. And right away, what's different about this is where it came from. This wasn't like some big study by a consulting firm or something. It was actually done by someone who works at Washington State University. They saw a need and thought, hey, maybe AI could help with this.
It is fascinating how often you see really valuable ideas come from people who are on the ground within an organization.
Totally.
Yeah.
And for anyone listening, this is like a sneak peek at how AI, which can seem really complicated and expensive, is being looked at for totally practical uses in higher education.
Mm-hmm.
And specifically using tools that are either free or super affordable. So you kind of need an inside look at how someone at a university is thinking about using these things to make a difference.
And it raises a really important point, too, about how these kinds of innovations happen within big organizations. How can you encourage people to explore ideas like this on their own and then maybe scale them up if they work?
And here's where things get even more interesting. The report itself is almost like a demonstration of what these tools can do, because the author managed to research right and put together this whole 100-page plus document in just a few weeks. And they were doing it all in their free time.
Wow, that is some serious efficiency.
It really is.
Yeah.
And it gives you an idea of just how much more productive people could be using AI, maybe even freeing up time for other things.
Absolutely. It underscores the power that individuals have to achieve a lot when they leverage AI.
For sure. And something else that stood out to me was the author's background. They've got experience managing reports for the WSU Zoom team. So they know how to put together a well-organized document that's based on data. And on top of that, the fact that they support a service like Zoom that so many people use with a relatively small team shows that they understand how to make tech solutions work well and scale them up effectively.
And thinking about your own experience with this, it just goes to show that using tech the right way isn't always about having a massive budget or a ton of people. Sometimes it's about finding the right tool and applying it in a focused way.
Exactly. And the best part is, this whole thing wasn't an assignment. It came from a real desire to learn and a strong belief that AI could bring about some really positive changes. The author actually uses these tools all the time, not just for work, but for their own personal learning too. And that hands-on experience is what makes them so convinced that AI can make a real difference in areas like enrollment and the overall university experience, especially now with the challenges WSU is facing.
It seems like that personal passion and belief are so important when it comes to driving innovation. It's about seeing the potential and then being motivated to really explore it.
And that's exactly what this report does. It doesn't just talk about the problems. It lays out a possible path forward. The author truly believes that if WSU adopts AI in a thoughtful way across the whole university, it could be a major boost, potentially lifting morale and improving how things work at a time when they really need it.
It's interesting how technology can be more than just a tool. It can actually contribute to a feeling of progress and purpose within an organization.
The full report goes deep into a number of important areas. It starts by looking at the major challenges that are facing higher education today, the kinds of things that make exploring AI solutions so important right now. And then it looks at how AI is being used right now within universities, both by students and faculty. It highlights the need for clear guidelines and training as the use of AI increases.
After that, it shifts gears and examines some of the specific strategies and initiatives that other universities are already putting into action using AI, like how they're incorporating it into their teaching, streamlining administrative tasks, using it to improve student support services, and even how they're using it to expand their research capabilities.
Exactly. And then it gets into the nitty-gritty with a really practical section that reviews specific AI tools that educators and students can use. It even points to helpful resources for anyone who wants to learn more about AI and how to use it in their work.
And then to really lay out a roadmap for the future, it proposes a strategic plan for how WSU could integrate AI into everything they do. It covers areas like developing policies, training faculty, enhancing the curriculum, and figuring out how to measure whether these efforts are actually working.
And for those who are interested in how education and career development are evolving, there's a whole section on AI-driven microcredentials. It explores how AI could be used to create programs that meet specific needs in the job market and ultimately make graduates more competitive when they're looking for work.
And to bring it all together, it finishes by giving 10 very specific examples of open source AI solutions that could be put in place relatively quickly and affordably within a university setting.
And one of the initial things the report recommends is for WSU to relaunch and update their website called Artificial Intelligence at WSU. The idea is for this site to be a one-stop shop with clear information about the university's policies, practical advice on using AI responsibly, a directory of all the AI resources available, and training materials to help people across the university use AI effectively.
That sounds like a really good foundation for their AI efforts.
Yeah, it's meant to be that central hub for all things AI at WSU, promoting transparency, ensuring that everyone's on the same page, and giving faculty, staff, students, and even partners outside the university a clear starting point.
So as you can see, this report really does cover a lot of ground, starting with the big picture and then zooming into very specific recommendations and practical examples.
So here's something to think about. If one person working independently and using free or low-cost AI tools can create such a thorough and detailed exploration, what could be possible if those same tools were adopted and used strategically across an entire university? What kind of potential could be unleashed, not just for the university itself, but for all the students who are learning there as these technologies continue to shape the future of education? It's definitely something worth considering.
Absolutely. It's a really exciting time to be thinking about the possibilities of AI in education.
Yeah, it's a pretty interesting time right now.
Yeah.
A lot of things in flux, a lot of questions. And so in this part of the deep dive, we'll really try to look at the core issues at play here.
Yeah, exactly. Like we're trying to boil down the most important things, the surprising takeaways that we found in your sources. And we're trying to give you a clear picture of what's happening right now with universities and what people are trying to do to solve these problems, you know?
Right, and we'll touch on a lot of things in this section. Tuition costs, of course, student loan debt, even the value of a degree now in the job market. You know, is it worth it anymore?
Yeah.
We'll look at alternative credentials, accreditation, how that's changing, finances of universities, and then this big question of AI. You know, how is artificial intelligence going to change things?
Yeah. So think of this as one piece of a larger discussion, right, about the future of education and work. So, okay, let's start with something I think a lot of people are concerned about right now, the cost of college.
Yeah.
Affordability.
The affordability crisis.
Yeah.
It's huge, and the numbers are pretty shocking.
Yeah.
When you look at what you sent us about tuition costs between 2012-13 and 2022-23, the average increase at a four-year college was 25.6%.
Wow.
And then if you take an even longer view, you know, from 2000 to 2020, post-secondary tuition rose 111.4% faster than wages.
Oh, wow.
So what does that mean for you? You know, what does that mean for your listeners?
Oh.
It means that the idea that college is a way to improve your economic standing, it's not as simple as it used to be. That's something your sources really highlight.
Yeah, and then you add on to that the whole student loan problem.
Oh, yeah.
Right now, the average federal student loan balance is something like $38,375.
That's a lot of money.
And the national total is almost $2 trillion. It's insane.
Yeah, like
It's a huge number.
huge amount of money.
Yeah, and this debt is clearly impacting how people view college, right?
Right.
There was a Pew survey that we saw in your material, and only 22% of adults in the U.S. think college is worth it if you have to take out loans.
Wow.
And almost 30% said it's not worth it at all, no matter what.
Yeah. And that's a big change in how people think about college.
Yeah, and it looks like it's directly affecting how many people are going to college.
Right.
Like the Gallup poll from 2024 said the number one reason that enrollment is down is cost.
Yeah.
And we're even seeing some colleges close down because of this financial pressure. At least 74 public and nonprofit U.S. colleges have either shut down or merged with another school since March 2020.
So that's like real-world evidence of this crisis, right?
Yeah, so the old way of doing things, where colleges rely mostly on tuition money, is struggling.
Right. And this is where AI comes in. Your sources talk about AI a lot. You know, things like AI tutoring systems that can work with students, give them feedback, figure out where they need help. And these systems are available all the time, 24/7, unlike a human tutor. And then there are automated course assistants.
Right.
You know, so maybe technology can help deliver good instruction to lots of people at the same time.
Right.
And maybe that can help control costs.
Yeah, so if technology can handle some of the teaching or, just make things run more smoothly at a university, those savings could help make college more affordable.
Potentially.
But here's something else that your sources emphasize a lot.
Okay.
It's not just about the cost. It's about whether college is even worth it anymore when it comes to getting a job.
Yeah, and that's really important too.
Right.
The data shows a big problem with underemployment,
Underemployment.
right? People with college degrees working jobs that don't actually need a degree.
Right.
There's a report from 2024 you sent us, and it said 52% of new graduates from four-year colleges were underemployed in their first year out of school, and 45% were still underemployed 10 years later.
10 years later.
It's a long time to be in a job that doesn't really need your degree,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, so it seems like what students learn in college and what employers actually need are not matching up.
Yeah, there's a disconnect there.
Yeah.
And the surveys really show, this one survey found that 77% of recent grads felt they learned more in 6 months on the job than in 4 years of college.
Wow.
Think about that. And only 25% felt like they had all the skills they needed for their job.
So it sounds like employers are on the same page, right?
Yeah, it seems
If
like,
they're noticing this too.
yeah, a whopping 96% of HR leaders think that colleges should do more to make sure graduates have the skills they need to work right away.
Okay, and get this.
Okay.
89% of employers admit that they try to avoid hiring recent grads because they don't have enough real-world experience.
That's a huge number.
Yeah.
And it shows you a fundamental problem for higher education. And as your sources say, it's a big reason why we're seeing these alternative credentials popping up, things like microcredentials, certificates, industry certifications.
So it sounds like employers are looking for skills and experience more than just a degree.
Yeah, they want to know what you can actually do, not just where you went to school.
Right.
There was a survey in late 2023 that showed 80% of employers now care more about experience and skills than degrees.
80%.
Yeah, and we're seeing changes in how companies hire people, too.
Yeah.
More than half of companies, 55% in 2023, got rid of the college degree requirement for some jobs, and 45% are planning to do the same this year. They're really moving toward evaluating what people can do.
Okay, so what about those micro-credentials you mentioned, those shorter programs that focus on specific skills? Do employers like those?
Yeah, most employers that were surveyed think that people who get microcredentials are showing initiative and they're trying to learn specific skills, which is good. Stackable credentials are also popular in those shorter courses that can add up to a bigger qualification. But there are some concerns, too, mainly about whether the quality is consistent and whether there are standards across all these different credentials.
So with all these changes in the job market, how can AI help close that gap between what's taught in college and what employers want?
Well, your sources suggest a few things. AI platforms could provide more personalized learning. Let students focus on the skills they need and go at their own pace.
Okay.
AI tutors and simulations can give students more of that real-world experience, like virtual labs or projects that let them use what they're learning in practical ways.
Okay. So
And AI can even help universities create those micro-credential programs that are designed with input from businesses.
right, so basically making education more flexible.
Right, exactly, adapting to what the job market needs.
Okay, so let's shift gears a bit and talk about accreditation. The process that makes sure colleges are meeting certain standards.
Yeah, so accreditation is like a seal of approval for colleges. And accreditation agencies are starting to focus less on the traditional inputs, things like the qualifications of the faculty or the specific courses in a program, and they're putting more emphasis on what students are actually learning and how flexible the learning process is.
So are students really gaining the knowledge and skills they're supposed to?
Right, exactly. They're looking at the outcomes.
Okay.
And we're seeing competency-based education become more accepted, which means students have to show they can do certain things rather than just taking a certain number of classes.
Okay, that makes sense. And your sources pointed out that the U.S. Department of Education and regional accreditors are updating their policies to include things like direct assessment programs and online learning.
Yeah, they're recognizing that education's changing.
Right. So with AI becoming more common in education, are accreditation bodies looking at that too? Making sure it's used responsibly?
Oh, yeah, definitely. The Council for Higher Education Accreditation, CHEA, they actually put out some guidelines for using AI in accreditation back in February this year, 2025.
So what are some of the key points in those guidelines?
One big thing is that humans should still be making the decisions about education. AI should be a tool, not a replacement for human judgment.
Okay, so AI is helping but not taking over.
Exactly.
Got it.
They also say that the data used in AI systems needs to be accurate and unbiased.
Yeah.
We don't want AI making decisions based on bad data.
Yeah, that's like making sure a human evaluator is using good information too.
Right, and transparency is important too.
Yeah.
People need to know how AI is being used, and student data needs to be protected.
Right, privacy is important.
Yeah, so the message is basically AI is fine, but it has to be used ethically, and it can't lower academic standards.
So with all these non-degree credentials like microcredentials, is accreditation changing to cover those too?
Yeah, that's something to work on. Your sources suggest that accreditation might need to adapt to evaluate these new types of programs, make sure they're high quality and relevant to employers. That could mean looking at things like the learning outcomes, how tough the assessments are, and how well the program matches up with what employers need.
So for universities that want to use AI in their programs, what's the big takeaway when it comes to accreditation?
They have to be smart about it. Just using AI without a plan for measuring how it affects students and making sure the quality stays high could be a problem.
Okay.
They need to use AI in ways that clearly improve learning and lead to good outcomes for students.
Right.
AI can actually help here. AI analytics can provide evidence of what students are learning, and AI can even help with compliance, making sure everything meets the rules.
Okay, so if universities use AI the right way with a focus on results and ethics, could actually be a good thing for accreditation.
That's right.
Okay, so let's talk about the money situation for universities because it sounds like 2025 is a tough time financially.
Yeah, it is. The data shows that a lot of colleges are facing serious money problems.
Yeah.
Almost 100 U.S. colleges shut down between 2022-23 and 2023-24. That's a lot of closures.
That's a lot of schools.
Yeah, it shows you how serious the problem is.
So what's causing these budget problems?
Well, a few things. Enrollment is dropping, which means less tuition money. And for a lot of colleges, tuition is their main source of income.
Right.
There's also a lot of uncertainty about government funding. There was a freeze on federal funding earlier this year, and there might be cuts to research grants and student aid.
Okay.
So all of this together puts a big strain on university budgets.
And it sounds like costs are going up for universities too, especially in areas that aren't directly related to teaching.
Right. Administrative costs have been growing for a while now. The data shows that administrative staff has grown faster than the number of faculty, and that's led to what some people call bureaucratic bloat, too much administration.
So are colleges spending more on administration than on actually teaching students?
In some cases, yes, and that's a concern.
So overall, the financial health of higher education doesn't look so good in 2025.
No,
Yeah.
it doesn't. We're seeing budget cuts across the board, hiring freezes for faculty and staff, and even delays in fixing up buildings and facilities.
Wow.
And the fact that about one college a week is closing shows just how bad it is.
Yeah.
Plus, the ratio of administrators to students is at an all-time high.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's not a good situation.
But it seems like university leaders think AI could be a solution.
Yeah, a lot of them do.
Yeah.
86% of university leaders agree that AI has the potential to really change higher education, and a lot of them are looking at how AI can make administration more efficient.
Yeah. And we're already seeing some examples of that, right?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Like Georgia Tech using AI to screen applications,
Right.
SAIC using it to predict enrollment, and Knox College using it for recruiting students.
Yeah, so they're showing how AI can save money on administrative costs by automating tasks and maybe even improve outcomes like enrollment.
Yeah, so maybe that frees up money to invest in teaching or make college more affordable for students.
That's the hope.
So it seems like AI could be a big factor in changing higher education in lots of ways, not just financially.
Yeah, your sources definitely point to AI as a key to making education more affordable and accessible. Kind of like a new digital transformation.
Okay, so let's talk about personalized learning because it seems like AI has a lot of potential there.
Oh, yeah, definitely. AI-powered platforms and intelligent tutoring systems can really adapt to each student's needs and learning style.
Right.
They can provide personalized support and resources, answer questions anytime, give feedback on assignments, even create practice problems that target a student's weaknesses.
So it's kind of like having a personal tutor for every student.
Yeah, exactly. And at a scale that wasn't possible before.
Right. And research shows that this kind of personalization can really help students learn better.
That's right.
Wow. So AI can handle larger classes without sacrificing quality.
Potentially, yeah. because it can provide that individual support.
Okay. And we talked about how AI can automate administrative tasks too.
Yeah, all those routine things that take up so much time and money.
Right.
AI chatbots and natural language processing systems can do a lot of that stuff now.
So things like
Answering student questions, processing forms,
yeah.
optimizing schedules, all that stuff.
Okay.
And this can not only save money, but also make things faster and more accurate.
Okay, so less waiting around for students.
Exactly, happier students.
Right.
And then there's data-driven decision-making.
Yeah.
AI can analyze all that data that universities collect and find patterns that humans might miss.
So what kind of things can AI help with?
Well, it can help predict which students might drop out.
Okay.
So the university can intervene and provide support. It can help with enrollment forecasting, figuring out how many students to expect.
Right.
And it can help identify areas where the university could be spending money more efficiently.
Okay, so AI can help universities make smarter decisions overall.
Yeah, exactly.
And finally, AI seems to be important for online learning.
Yeah, definitely. AI tools can really improve the quality and accessibility of online courses.
How so?
Well, there's AI proctoring for exams.
Okay, so preventing cheating.
Right. And then AI-driven discussion facilitators to keep students engaged in online discussions, and even real-time translation so students from different countries can participate.
Wow.
So this means universities can reach more students, people who work full-time or live far away, and they can potentially increase enrollment and revenue without having to spend as much on physical facilities.
So it sounds like higher education is facing some big challenges in 2025, but using AI the right way could be a real game changer.
Yeah, that's really the main point of this deep dive. Higher education is at a crossroads, but AI could be the key to making things more affordable, better quality, more accessible.
Yeah, it's not about getting rid of human teachers, but about using AI to help them do their jobs even better.
That's right. AI can help streamline things, make things more efficient, and ultimately create a better system of higher education for everyone.
Well, this has been a really interesting discussion about a really important time for higher education, and it makes you think about the future of learning. What will it look like, and how will technology change things? What does all of this mean for you as a learner or for the future of education in general?
Yeah, it's something to really think about.
And remember, this is just one part of our conversation, so keep exploring these ideas with us.
There's a lot more to discuss.
It's crazy to think how fast things change, Like, just a little while ago, AI in college was basically sci-fi. But now, wow, by last year, 86% of college students globally were using AI tools for their studies. Globally, yeah. And over half were using them like every week at least. It's a huge shift. Early 2023, only 1 in 5 students were even admitting to using AI.
Right.
But then late 2022 rolls around, ChatGPT hits the scene, and it's like everything changed. And by last year, almost 9 out of 10 university leaders thought at least half their students were using AI for their schoolwork.
That's a really fast change. It's like everyone jumped on board almost overnight. What's interesting, though, is it's not just the students.
For sure.
Faculty are getting into it, too, right?
Yeah.
A 2024 report said 45% of college faculty were using AI for teaching. That's like almost double from the year before.
Double, yeah. And then there's this other survey from late last year that showed 84% of North American hired professionals had used AI for work or in their personal lives, with 61% using it for both. So it's not just in the classroom, it's everywhere in higher ed.
It really makes you think about how everyone sees the potential for AI to impact, like, everything. Teaching, personal stuff, how we work, everything.
Yeah. But here's the thing that I found kind of wild. Despite all those numbers, right, showing all that faculty use, over 60% of university leaders still thought less than half their faculty were using AI at work.
Huh. So the leaders are a little behind the curve.
Seems like it. There's a real gap there.
It makes you wonder, like maybe they define using AI differently, or maybe faculty aren't talking about it. Maybe there's just not a good way to share what they're doing with it.
Yeah, especially if there aren't clear guidelines from the universities.
Exactly.
And that's actually what we're really digging into today. All this AI used by students and faculty, but without many universities really having policies or guidelines in place.
It's like we have this huge wave of tech coming in, changing how we teach and learn, but we don't really have a plan for it yet.
Right. And that's important because it affects everything, how we teach, academic integrity, the whole deal. So let's get into it. Let's talk about how students are actually using AI. ChatGPT is a big one, right? And those AI study tools.
Makes sense. ChatGPT is really easy to use.
Yeah. And a lot of students are using it for writing, like 66% globally.
Wow, most students.
Yeah.
For things like brainstorming, getting over writer's block, even editing drafts.
Absolutely. There's this survey, right, of college ChatGPT users. 69% said they use it for writing assignments, 67% for research, explaining concepts, summarizing articles, that kind of thing, rephrasing sentences, checking grammar, even making outlines.
So it's like having a writing tutor available 24/7.
Basically. But it's not just writing. Students are using AI to study, learn, all sorts of stuff. They use chatbots to quiz themselves, get explanations when they're stuck, even make practice problems. And AI is getting built into platforms like Quizlet and Duolingo, too, making them more interactive and personalized.
It's interesting, that personalization aspect.
Oh, absolutely. And the average student is using more than 2 AI tools. Like 22% use at least 3 regularly. It's not just one thing. They're using a whole bunch of them.
So they're really figuring out which tool works best for what they need.
Exactly. And then there's research. Students are using AI to summarize articles, explain tough theories, give examples. DeepL, that translation tool, is huge too.
Makes research a lot easier, especially for articles in other languages.
For sure. Even AI image generators are being used for presentations and stuff. It's like having a superpowered research assistant. But, and this is super important, AI can be wrong. Like sometimes it just makes stuff up and sounds totally confident about it.
Right. Like it's good for getting started, but you can't trust everything it spits out.
Exactly. Students need to double check everything and be able to spot those AI hallucinations.
We need to teach them how to use it responsibly.
So now let's talk about the professors. ChatGPT's popular with them too. They're using it for lesson planning and making content, like getting outlines, different ways to explain things, coming up with examples, making things more engaging.
They can really help teachers be more creative.
Definitely. Some teachers are even using ChatGPT to come up with activities, break down hard topics, make handouts summarizing discussions, or tailored case studies.
It can free up a lot of time for teachers so they can focus on working with students.
Exactly. Assessment and grading is another area. Professors are using AI to make test questions, build quiz banks, write essay prompts. Some are experimenting with it to make model answers and rubrics, even trying to use it for early feedback on essays or code.
AI grading essays. It's hard to imagine that working well, honestly.
It's still early days for that, but AI can definitely streamline things like making basic questions or seeing patterns in student answers.
That makes sense. Freeing up time for professors to give more specific feedback.
Exactly. And then there's ChatGPT Edu, which is specifically for grading and tutoring. So it seems like AI's role in assessment is only going to grow.
So these AI tools are getting more specialized, more focused on the needs of teachers and students. That's a good thing.
Absolutely. But beyond teaching, AI is also helping with all that admin stuff. Emails, recommendation letters, making syllabi, updating policies, even scheduling.
Oh yeah, all that tedious stuff.
Exactly. It's a huge time saver, and it's one of the top ways faculty are using AI right now. Even academic advisors are trying to figure out how AI can help them analyze student data.
To help them see which students might need extra help.
Yeah, but obviously they have to be super careful with privacy. It's about working smarter, not harder, and giving students the support they need.
So maybe that's why those university leaders think fewer faculty are using AI. They're using it for stuff that's not as visible.
That's a good point. And we can't forget research. A lot of faculty are researchers, and they're using tools like ChatGPT, Cite.ai, and Elicit, summarizing research, translating papers, even helping write their own articles. One global survey found 45% of researchers were using AI for stuff like translation, proofreading, and editing.
Yeah, AI can be a big help with research, especially
Yeah.
when you have to go through tons of articles.
Definitely. A lot of faculty are using it to make writing and editing faster. And they're starting to look at how AI can help with data analysis and even writing grant proposals.
As AI gets better, it's probably going to be used more and more for research.
For sure. So the big picture is chatbots and generative AI are the most popular tools. Then there's stuff like Grammarly for writing and GitHub Copilot for coding, and a bunch of other tools for translation, creating content, all sorts of things. It's like people are using a whole toolbox of AI.
It's because AI can do so much, from everyday tasks to really complicated research and writing. That's why it's becoming so popular in higher ed.
And that brings us to the big question. What does all this mean for universities? We have all this AI being used, but not many rules or guidelines.
Yeah, it's like we're driving this powerful car without a map.
Exactly. And one of the biggest things is academic integrity, like what's okay and what's not. It's a gray area right now. A 2023 survey showed that over half of college students hadn't even talked about AI with their professors. And 60% said their school or professors hadn't given them any ethical guidelines about using AI.
Wow, that's a problem. Students need to know what's allowed. Otherwise, they could accidentally break the rules.
Right, and then there are the big questions. Can you turn in stuff written by AI? Do you have to cite it? What does that even look like? Is it okay for brainstorming, but not for whole essays? And a lot of students actually want these questions answered.
They want to know the rules.
Exactly. One survey showed that students expect universities to tell them how to use AI ethically. They want clear guidelines in honor codes and syllabi.
So universities need to step up and give them that guidance.
Absolutely. But beyond academic integrity, there's the bigger question of how universities can use AI to actually improve learning and make things more efficient. Students and faculty are already using it because they see the value.
So instead of banning it, universities should be thinking about how to use it to their advantage.
Exactly. We should be teaching students how to use AI the right way and giving faculty training and support so they can use AI for all those admin tasks.
So they have more time for teaching and working with students.
Yeah. One faculty survey showed that teachers are optimistic about AI but want more support from their institutions. They want training, workshops, best practices, all that.
That makes sense. They need to feel confident using this new technology.
So to wrap up, AI is everywhere in higher ed. Students are using it, faculty are using it, but there aren't many rules yet. And that has huge implications for how we teach, how we learn, and academic integrity.
The challenge is finding the balance, embracing the potential of AI, but also making sure it's being used responsibly and ethically.
Exactly. So to you, our listener, what do you think are the most important conversations we need to be having about AI in higher ed? How do we make sure it's used in a way that benefits everyone? Think about it from the perspective of students, faculty, and university leaders. What are the big questions we need to answer?
Universities are incorporating AI concepts and skills into a much broader range of courses and degree programs.
It's like, back in the day when everyone had to start learning how to use computers, now it's AI.
Right, and a great example of this is the University of Florida. They've really gone all in on this AI across the curriculum concept.
Yeah, they've got over 200 courses across all sorts of different disciplines that now incorporate AI in some way, like everything from law and medicine to engineering, journalism, business, you name it. It's pretty impressive.
Yeah, it really is. And the idea is that, even if you're not going to be an AI specialist, you still need to understand how AI might impact your field. Like, a law student needs to know how AI is changing legal research. A journalism student needs to understand how AI is being used to create news content.
And it's not just about keeping up with the times. It's about giving students the skills they need to actually innovate in their fields.
Right, because AI is going to change how we do almost everything eventually. And students need to be prepared to lead those changes, not just react to them.
And when you look at a system as large as California State University, CSU, you see this AI across the curriculum approach being applied on a really massive scale.
Definitely. CSU's got a huge and diverse student body, and their goal is to integrate AI into every part of the university experience.
Yeah, they've got this thing called the AI Commons Hub, which is like a central resource center for anything and everything AI related. It's got research tools, training materials, even pathways to industry certifications.
Yeah, it's really impressive. They're also doing some pretty interesting things with AI-powered personalized learning.
And don't forget their partnership with OpenAI, which has led to the largest deployment of ChatGPT-U anywhere in the world. They've got over 460,000 students and 63,000 staff using it. It's really amazing.
It is. And it shows just how committed CSU is to democratizing access to AI education, to make sure that all their students have the opportunity to develop these essential AI skills, no matter what their background is or what they're studying.
So you've got these big state university systems like UF and CSU that are really focusing on offering a broad range of AI courses and making sure that every student has some exposure to AI. But then you've also got other universities that are taking a more specialized approach, building entire degree programs around AI.
Exactly. And one of the pioneers in this area is Carnegie Mellon University, CMU. They were actually the first university in the world to offer a bachelor's degree in AI.
Wow, that's forward thinking. I mean, that was back in, 2018?
Yeah, and they haven't stopped there. They've also launched master's programs in AI engineering and even business degrees that are specifically focused on AI.
I guess they saw the writing on the wall that AI was going to be a huge driver of jobs and innovation in the future.
They definitely did. And another great example of this specialization trend is the University of Southern California, USC. They have a really interesting major called Business for Artificial Intelligence, which combines, the technical aspects of AI with a strong focus on business strategy and applications.
So it's not just about understanding how the technology works, but also how to use it effectively in a real-world business context.
Exactly. It's about training the next generation of leaders and innovators who can leverage AI to solve complex business problems and create new opportunities.
Now, it's not just the big research universities that are jumping on the AI bandwagon. Even smaller liberal arts colleges are finding ways to incorporate AI into their curriculum.
And that's actually really encouraging to see. Because, liberal arts colleges tend to focus on a broad-based education, on developing critical thinking skills, and a deep understanding of human culture and society.
Right, so it's not just about the technical skills. It's about understanding the broader implications of AI, the ethical considerations, the potential impact on society.
Exactly. And one example of this is
Yeah.
Cornell University, which offers a minor in AI. But what's interesting is that they don't just focus on the technical aspects. They also require students to take courses in ethics, governance, and policy so that they can understand the social and political implications of AI.
It's about recognizing that AI is not just a neutral tool. It can be used for good or for bad, and it's important to think critically about how we develop and deploy it.
Right. And another good example is Barnard College. They've developed an AI literacy framework that emphasizes, critical thinking and ethical reasoning
Yeah.
alongside technical skill development.
Yeah, I remember seeing something about Bowdoin College, too. They were emphasizing how important it is for humanities students to be involved in shaping the future of AI. The idea being that, humanities students are trained to think about the big questions, the ethical questions, the questions about what it means to be human in a technological world.
It's a really important point.
Yeah.
Because as AI becomes more powerful and more pervasive, we need people from all disciplines, not just computer science, to be involved in shaping its development and its use.
It seems like there's this growing recognition that AI literacy is not optional anymore. It's becoming a fundamental part of a well-rounded education, regardless of what you're studying or what career path you choose.
Absolutely. And that means that universities need to support their faculty in developing the knowledge and skills they need to teach about AI effectively.
Yeah, you can't just tell your professors to start teaching AI without giving them the resources and support they need to do it well.
Right. And a lot of universities are stepping up to the plate here. For example, Arizona State University has partnered with OpenAI to create a generative AI community of practice. This provides faculty with access to resources, training, and support for integrating generative AI, like ChatGPT, into their teaching.
That sounds really helpful, especially for faculty who may not have a strong background in computer science or AI. It can be intimidating to start teaching something that's so new and so rapidly evolving.
Definitely. And the University of Alabama has a program called the Hands-on AI Series for Teaching Excellence, or HASTE, which offers faculty hands-on experience with AI tools and techniques.
And the University of Notre Dame has a Teaching Well with AI Academy, which provides faculty with a deep dive into the pedagogical considerations of using AI in the classroom.
Right. And beyond these specific programs, we're seeing a lot of universities creating centralized AI teaching resource portals and faculty learning communities. These are really valuable for providing ongoing support, fostering collaboration, and sharing best practices.
So, when you look at curriculum development as a whole, it seems like there are two main trends emerging.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
On the one hand, you have large state universities like UF and CSU that are really leveraging their scale to offer a broad range of formal AI courses and degrees, reaching a significant number of students.
Right, making sure everyone has at least some exposure to AI.
And then on the other hand, you have smaller colleges, especially liberal arts colleges, that are focusing on integrating AI literacy and ethical considerations across their broader curriculum.
Yeah, making sure that AI is not just seen as a technical subject, but is understood in its broader social and cultural context.
But even with these different approaches, the common thread seems to be this growing consensus that AI literacy is now a fundamental component of a well-rounded education.
Absolutely. It's no longer a niche skill. It's something that everyone needs to know something about.
Okay, so that's curriculum. Let's shift gears now and talk about how universities are using AI to improve their own operations.
Yeah, let's go behind the scenes and look at the role of AI in administrative processes.
So we're talking about using AI to make things run more smoothly, to be more efficient, to save time and money.
Exactly. And one area where we're seeing a lot of activity is in the use of AI-powered chatbots.
Oh, yeah, those little virtual assistants that pop up on websites and try to answer your questions.
Right, but these chatbots are getting a lot more sophisticated, and they're being used for a lot more than just answering basic questions. Universities are deploying them for everything from admissions and advising to IT support and library services.
And they can be really helpful,
Yeah.
especially for things like, routine inquiries like what are the deadlines for applying for financial aid or where can I find the library hours?
Yeah. And they can be available 24/7, which is a huge advantage for students who might have questions outside of the normal business hours.
It's like having a virtual staff member who never sleeps.
And they can also be a lot more efficient than human staff, especially when it comes to handling a large volume of inquiries.
Yeah, I imagine it frees up staff time to focus on more complex issues.
Definitely. A great example of this is Georgia State University's chatbot, Pounce. They actually saw a significant decrease in what they call summer melt.
Summer melt, what's that?
It's when students who have been accepted to college end up not enrolling, often because they get lost in the shuffle or don't get the support they need over the summer.
Oh, I see. So Pounce is helping to keep those students on track and make sure they actually show up in the fall.
Exactly. And CSU Northridge's chatbot, CSU Identity, has also been shown to improve student retention and graduation rates.
That's pretty impressive. It seems like these chatbots can make a real difference in student success.
Yeah, and it's not just the big universities that are using them. Even smaller colleges are finding that third-party chatbot platforms can be a really cost-effective way to provide personalized support to their students.
So chatbots are one way that universities are using AI to improve efficiency, but there's also a lot of buzz around predictive analytics.
Absolutely. Predictive analytics is all about using AI to analyze data and identify patterns that can help universities make better decisions.
So instead of just reacting to things after they happen, they can try to anticipate what's going to happen and plan accordingly.
Exactly. And this can be applied to a wide range of areas, from enrollment forecasting and resource allocation to student success initiatives and even fundraising.
It's about being proactive, about using data to make smarter decisions.
Right. And it's not a new idea. Back in the mid-2010s, over 40% of universities were already using predictive analytics for things like targeted advising and course demand forecasting.
I guess that makes sense. Universities have always collected a lot of data about their students. Now they have the tools to actually do something with it.
Exactly. A good example is the University of Texas, which uses algorithms to identify students who might be at risk of dropping out.
And then they can intervene early and offer support to help those students succeed.
Right. It's about identifying students who need help before they even realize they need help. And this can make a big difference in preventing students from falling through the cracks.
AI can also be used to streamline internal business processes.
Definitely. A lot of universities are using AI to automate routine tasks, like processing paperwork, scheduling meetings, and managing finances.
That sounds like it could save a lot of time and money.
It can. And it can also free up staff to focus on more strategic work. A great example is the University of Alabama's Business School. They're using AI to manage their supply chains and improve customer service.
That's smart. Not only does it make their operations more efficient, but it also gives their students real-world experience with AI in action.
It's a win-win. And Arizona State University is using ChatGPT Enterprise on a campus-wide basis to automate all sorts of routine tasks, from drafting documents to managing email correspondence.
So it's not just about saving money, it's about using AI to make everyone's lives a little bit easier.
Exactly. But as universities become more reliant on AI for administrative tasks, it's important to think carefully about the ethical implications.
Yeah, like any powerful technology, AI can be misused. So it's important to have clear guidelines in place to ensure that it's being used responsibly and ethically.
Right, and a lot of universities are starting to develop those guidelines. For example, the California State University system has a system-wide generative AI committee that's responsible for developing guidelines for the use of AI across all 23 of their campuses.
That's a big job. I imagine there are a lot of different things to consider.
Definitely. Like, how do you ensure academic integrity when students have access to AI tools that can write essays and solve math problems? How do you protect student privacy when AI is being used to analyze their data? And how do you make sure that AI is being used equitably so that it doesn't create new biases or disadvantages?
Yeah, those are all really important questions, and it sounds like the CSU system is taking them seriously.
They are, and they're not alone. The University of Michigan has a faculty-led generative AI advisory committee that's been doing some really deep thinking about the implications of generative AI. They've produced a very comprehensive report that goes into a lot of detail about the potential benefits and risks of AI in higher education.
The University of Notre Dame has an AI Innovation Council that's responsible for coordinating all of the university's AI initiatives and making sure that they align with the university's mission and values.
Right, and this is especially important for public and land-grant universities, which have a mandate to serve the public good.
Like Oregon State University's chief information officer has been really vocal about the importance of inclusive AI-driven transformation, making sure that AI benefits everyone and doesn't exacerbate existing inequalities.
Exactly. It's not just about making things more efficient, it's about using AI to create a more equitable and just society.
So when we look at the use of AI in administrative processes, it seems like the larger university systems, like CSU, are often leading the way in large-scale AI adoption. They have the resources and the infrastructure to build their own AI solutions and deploy them across a large network of campuses.
Yeah, that's true. But smaller colleges are also finding ways to benefit from AI. They might not have the resources to build their own AI systems, but they can leverage third-party AI services, which are becoming increasingly user-friendly and affordable.
So while there are definitely differences in how universities are approaching AI, the underlying challenges related to ethics, privacy, and the need to augment, not replace, human judgment are shared across the board.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Ultimately, the goal is to use AI as a helpful ally, a tool that can support and enhance human decision-making and problem-solving.
Okay, so we've talked about how universities are using AI to change what they teach and how they operate. But what about how they support their students?
Right. That's a really important piece of the puzzle. And it's an area where AI has the potential to make a real difference in students' lives.
I can see that. AI can provide personalized support and guidance in ways that weren't possible before.
Exactly. And one of the most visible ways this is happening is through the use of virtual assistants and chatbots.
Yeah, we talked about chatbots in the context of administrative tasks, but they're also being used to directly support students.
Right. And these student-facing chatbots can answer a wide range of questions, everything from when is the deadline to drop a class, to where can I get help with my resume, to what mental health resources are available on campus.
It's like having a 204/7 virtual advisor in your pocket.
A great example is Arizona State University's chatbot, Hey Sunny. It's designed to help students navigate all aspects of college life, from academics and finances to health and wellness.
That's really cool. And it's not just about providing information, it's about making students feel supported and connected.
Exactly. And the data from these chatbots can actually be really valuable for universities. By analyzing the questions that students are asking, universities can get a better understanding of the challenges that students are facing and identify areas where they need to improve their services.
That's a good point. It's not just about providing answers, it's about using the data to learn and grow.
Right. And speaking of data, CSU Northridge's chatbot, CSU Onioni, has actually been shown to have a positive impact on first-year student retention.
So it's not just a nice to have, it's actually helping students succeed in college.
It is. And it's not just the big universities that are using chatbots. Smaller colleges are finding that platforms like Mainstay, which was formerly known as AdmitHub, and Ivy.ai, can be a really cost-effective way to provide personalized support to their students.
So there's a real equity aspect to this. It's about making sure that all students have access to the support they need, regardless of what school they go to.
Definitely. And one faculty member at a college that uses Mainstay said that the availability of the chatbot sends a clear message to students that people on campus want to help.
That's really powerful. Just knowing that someone is there for you can make a big difference.
Absolutely. And beyond chatbots, AI is also being used to enhance academic advising and tutoring.
Yeah, imagine having an AI tutor that can adapt to your individual learning style and provide you with personalized feedback.
That's the idea. And it's not science fiction. AI tutoring systems have been around for a while now, and they're getting better all the time.
I remember using one in college for math. It was actually pretty helpful.
Yeah, they can be really effective for certain subjects. And they're especially valuable for students who might not be able to afford a human tutor.
Another area where AI is starting to make inroads is in grading and feedback.
Yeah, this is still pretty new, but there are some promising applications. For example, AI can be used to grade multiple choice and short answer questions, which can free up instructors' time to focus on providing more in-depth feedback on essays and other complex assignments.
I can see how that would be helpful, especially in large enrollment courses.
Definitely. And AI can also be used to provide personalized feedback to students. For example, if a student is struggling with a particular concept, an AI system could identify that and suggest additional resources or exercises to help them master the material.
So it's not about replacing human instructors. It's about using AI to augment their capabilities and provide students with more individualized support.
Right. And Carnegie Mellon University has been a real leader in this area. They have a whole initiative called the Simon Initiative that's focused on using AI and other technologies to improve teaching and learning.
It's exciting to see how AI is being used to personalize the learning experience.
It is. And it's not just about academics. AI is also being used to support students' mental health and well-being.
Oh yeah, mental health is a huge issue on college campuses these days.
It is. And a lot of students are hesitant to reach out for help. They might feel embarrassed, or they might be worried about the stigma associated with mental health.
So AI could help to lower those barriers.
Exactly. AI-powered mental health chatbots like WISA and Wobot are becoming increasingly popular. They provide students with a safe and anonymous way to access support and information about mental health.
I've heard of those. They're like virtual therapists.
Yeah, sort of. They use evidence-based techniques to help students manage stress, anxiety, and depression. And they can also be programmed to identify potential crises and connect students with human counselors if needed.
That's really important. It's about using AI to provide a first line of support, but also recognizing that AI is not a replacement for human interaction and care.
Right. And Arizona State's chatbot, Hey Sunny, also includes mental health features. So it's not just about academics, it's about supporting the whole student.
That's a good point. It's about recognizing that students' mental health and well-being are just as important as their academic success.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And beyond academics and mental health, AI is also being used to support students in other areas, like career services.
Yeah, finding a job after college can be a really stressful process.
It can be. And AI can help to make it a little bit easier. For example, the University of Southern California uses an AI-powered platform called VMock to provide students with personalized feedback on their resumes and cover letters.
That sounds really helpful. And I've heard of other AI-powered tools that can help students prepare for job interviews.
Right. And the University of Michigan has a really cool AI assistant called Go Blue. It's a mobile app that provides students with all sorts of information about campus life, including events, navigation, and administrative procedures.
So it's like a personal concierge for college students.
Exactly. And it's designed with equity and accessibility in mind.
That's great. I mean, technology should be used to level the playing field, not create new barriers.
Absolutely. And even smaller colleges are finding ways to leverage AI to support their students. They might not have the resources to build their own AI assistants, but they can use third-party chat widgets on their websites or AI-powered platforms to match students with clubs and organizations based on their interests.
So it seems like the availability of cloud-based AI solutions is really democratizing access to these tools, making them available to institutions of all sizes.
Definitely. And it's great to see that universities are using AI in such a student-centered way.
Yeah, it's not just about efficiency or automation. It's about using AI to create a more supportive and engaging campus environment.
Exactly. And the early data suggests that these AI-powered student support services are having a positive impact on student engagement and success.
That's really encouraging. All right, let's move on to our final area of focus.
Research.
Okay, research.
Right.
This is where AI is not just being used to support teaching and administration, but is actually driving the creation of new knowledge. Yeah, AI is both a subject of research itself and a powerful tool that's being used to accelerate discovery across a wide range of disciplines.
Right. And we're seeing a lot of universities investing in dedicated AI research centers and institutes.
Like the University of Alabama has the Alabama Center for the Advancement of Artificial Intelligence, ALCAA, which focuses on human-centered and ethical AI.
Yeah, and the University of South Florida has the Institute for Artificial Intelligence plus X, which takes a very interdisciplinary approach to AI research.
And land-grant universities are also getting in on the action. Mississippi State University, for example, has the Agricultural Autonomy Institute, AAI, which focuses on robotics, AI, and remote sensing in farming.
It's great to see AI being applied to such practical, real-world challenges.
Yeah, and this AI plus X approach, where you bring together researchers from different disciplines to work on AI-related problems, seems to be really gaining traction.
It makes sense. AI is not just a computer science problem. It has the potential to transform every field of study.
Exactly. And that's why it's so important to have people from different backgrounds and perspectives working together on AI research.
A good example of this is Carnegie Mellon University's AI for Science initiative. They're bringing together AI researchers with scientists from fields like physics, biology, and chemistry to use AI to accelerate scientific discovery.
That's really cool. And the University of Calgary has an AI research hub that connects researchers from across the university, from engineering and computer science to business, law, and medicine.
Yeah, it's all about breaking down silos and fostering collaboration.
And it's not just the big research universities that are contributing to AI research. Smaller colleges and universities are also doing important work, often in niche areas or in partnership with larger institutions.
Right. And land-grant universities are playing a particularly important role in applying AI to solve real-world problems in agriculture and other areas.
Like Fort Valley State University has developed an AI-powered mobile app that can identify forage crops.
And the University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff is using AI to monitor aquaculture systems in real time.
And Central State University has built a low-cost agricultural robot that can be used to plant and harvest crops.
These are all great examples of how AI can be used to improve the lives of farmers and communities.
And they're all coming from historically Black colleges and universities, which are often overlooked in the tech world.
Right. And it's important to remember that AI innovation is happening everywhere, not just at the big-name schools.
Exactly. And larger land-grant universities are also investing heavily in AI research.
Oh, yeah, they're leading the way in a lot of areas.
Like the University of Florida has this amazing AI research hub located right on a working farm.
That's cool. I love that they're bringing AI research out of the lab and into the field where it can have a real impact.
Yeah, it's about making sure that AI research is connected to real-world needs.
And the University of Georgia has a really interesting initiative called the Future Farm, which is a high-tech research and demonstration farm that's using AI and other technologies to develop sustainable and efficient farming practices.
It seems like a lot of land-grant universities are really stepping up to the plate when it comes to AI research in agriculture.
They are, and it makes sense.
Right.
They have a long history of working with farmers and communities to solve agricultural challenges.
Right. They're in a unique position to bridge the gap between academic research and real-world applications.
Exactly. And to support all of this cutting-edge AI research, universities are making significant investments in high-performance computing infrastructure and specialized AI resources.
Like the University of Florida has the Hypergator AI supercomputer, which is one of the most powerful supercomputers in the world dedicated to AI research. It's being used for over 300 research projects across a wide range of disciplines.
That's incredible. And Notre Dame has a program called the New AI Project, which is designed to support faculty who are interested in using generative AI in their research.
Yeah, and a lot of R1 universities are offering internal grants and seed funding to encourage faculty and non-computer science departments to incorporate AI into their research.
It's about recognizing that AI has the potential to transform every field of study, not just computer science.
Exactly. And universities are also hosting more and more campus-wide seminars and AI colloquia to foster knowledge sharing and collaboration among researchers from different disciplines.
Yeah, the University of Calgary, for example, have a whole series of workshops and seminars on AI for researchers from across the university.
So it's not just about building infrastructure and funding research, it's also about creating a culture of collaboration and innovation around AI.
Absolutely. And while the top-tier research institutions and land-grant universities often lead the way in AI research, smaller universities are also playing an important role, often through applied research projects and niche areas of expertise.
And the beauty of AI is that it can be accessed and used by anyone with an internet connection.
Yeah.
You don't need a $1 million supercomputer to do meaningful AI research.
Right. There are a lot of cloud-based AI platforms and tools that are available to researchers at all levels.
So the playing field is becoming more level.
Definitely. And that's a good thing, because we need as many people as possible working on AI from all different backgrounds and perspectives. We want to give you a sense of what's out there, what tools are available for teachers, what's being developed for students, and what resources you can explore to dive deeper into all of this.
Because it is a lot, right? So maybe the best place to start is with the tools themselves. What are some of the AI tools that are already making waves in education?
Well, one that's been getting a lot of buzz is Conmigo. It's from Khan Academy, and it's essentially an AI-powered teaching assistant.
Conmigo, yeah. I've been hearing about that one. So how does it actually work, both for teachers and for students?
So for teachers, it offers a bunch of free features that are all about saving time and making their lives easier. Things like lesson planning, generating classroom activities, even putting together progress reports.
That sounds, wow, incredibly helpful. I mean, if it can take even some of that off a teacher's plate.
Oh, totally. And for students, Conmigo offers personalized tutoring, which is a paid feature, but it's super affordable. It's like $4 a month. And what's interesting is that it doesn't just give students the answers. It actually prompts them to think critically. It also helps with writing and even coding. There's support for all the popular languages, JavaScript, Python.
So it's not just about making things easier, it's about actually improving the learning process.
Exactly. And another cool set of tools comes from Contact North, Contact Nord. They have AI Teaching Assistant Pro, which is for educators, and AI Tutor Pro, which is for students. And both of them are free.
Free. That's amazing. What kinds of things can you do with them?
Okay, so with AI Teaching Assistant Pro, teachers can generate all kinds of questions, both multiple choice and essay questions. It can also help them design their entire course, like writing course descriptions, learning outcomes, even building syllabi and lecture notes.
Wow, that's like having a whole team of instructional designers at your fingertips.
It really is. And then, for students, AI Tutor Pro has a check tool that helps them assess their knowledge. It asks them questions and gives them instant feedback. And then there's the Grow tool, which provides interactive tutoring sessions.
So it's kind of like having a personalized tutor.
Kind of, yeah.
Right.
And what's really cool is that teachers can upload their own course materials so the AI Tutor Pro can provide answers that are specific to their curriculum.
Oh, that's a great feature. But what about privacy? Is that a concern with these tools?
They do address that. They emphasize data security and say they don't use student data to train the AI. They follow OpenAI's retention policy, which is pretty strict.
Okay, good to know. Now, speaking of AI tools, many of our listeners who have WSU credentials will probably be familiar with Microsoft 365 Copilot Chat.
Right, Copilot. That's a really interesting one, and it's definitely got some powerful features that could be really useful in education.
So what kinds of things can educators and students do with Copilot Chat?
Well, for educators, it can summarize long documents, transcripts, emails, just tons of stuff. It can also help them brainstorm ideas and even draft lesson plans.
That's pretty handy, especially if you're short on time.
Oh, absolutely. And for students, Copilot can be great for research. It can help them write essays and create presentations. It can even explain complex concepts in simpler terms if they're struggling with something.
I also noticed something about researcher and analyst agents within Copilot. What are those exactly?
Right. Those are a bit more advanced. The researcher agent can basically pull information from all sorts of sources and give you a nice overview of a topic. And the analyst agent can work with data, even use Python to do analysis and create visualizations.
Wow, that's pretty impressive. So it's going beyond just basic assistance then.
Definitely. It's getting into the realm of deeper research and more sophisticated data analysis.
Now, another tool that caught our eye is Perplexity AI. It's like an AI search engine, but it's not quite like Google, is it?
It's different, yeah. Perplexity uses those large language models, AI that's been trained on a massive amount of text data to give you direct answers to your questions. And the cool thing is that it provides citations, so you can see exactly where the information is coming from.
That's really important, especially in an academic context.
Definitely. And for educators, there's a feature called Pages that lets them create custom presentations based on their research. And they can even focus their search on specific types of sources, like academic papers or social media.
So it's really about making research more efficient and targeted.
Exactly. And for students, Perplexity AI can be great for homework, research projects, really anything where they need to find information and understand it quickly. And it's all in a conversational format, so it's pretty user-friendly.
And I think they also have a mobile app, right? So students can use it on the go.
They do, yeah. There are apps for both iOS and Android.
Now, Google also has its own contender in this space, right? Notebook LM.
Yeah, Notebook LM. This one's all about research and note-taking, but with an AI twist. So educators can use it to summarize articles, PDFs, websites, all kinds of things. And it can automatically generate study guides, quizzes, even FAQs based on the material.
That sounds like a huge time saver.
Oh, totally. And then there's this really cool feature called Audio Overview, where it basically creates an audio summary of the content. That could be really useful for accessibility and for students who prefer to learn by listening.
I was just thinking that about the accessibility aspect. That's a great feature.
And for students, Notebook LM can help them create their own interactive study guides, make flashcards, and even pull information from different sources for research projects. It also helps with citations, which is always a pain.
Definitely. Okay, so we've talked about a bunch of tools that are already available, but what about understanding AI itself? Like the bigger picture?
That's a crucial part of all of this, absolutely. You can't just use the tools without understanding what's going on under the hood, so to speak. And there are some great free resources out there to help educators and students build their AI literacy.
Like, where should people start if they want to learn more about AI and its implications?
Well, WSU is actually launching an AI literacy series in the spring of 2025. It's designed to help faculty and staff demystify AI and understand how it can be used effectively in education. And then there's Skillsoft's Percipio platform. They have a collection called Foundations of Generative AI, which is great for getting a solid foundation.
And Khan Academy, they have a whole section dedicated to AI for education, right?
They do, yeah. It's divided into 3 units. The first one is all about the basics of generative AI and the ethical considerations. The second unit focuses on how educators can use AI in their teaching. And the third one provides lesson plans that teachers can use with their students.
So it's a pretty comprehensive resource then.
It really is. And Microsoft and Google are also getting in on the action.
Of course they are.
Microsoft Learn has an AI for Educators learning path that goes into more depth on things like large language models and responsible AI use. And they have a student hub with resources for students. Google has a self-paced course called Generative AI for Educators, which they developed with MI Dre's. And Google Cloud Skills Boost has an introduction to generative AI learning path that's more technical.
It's amazing to see all these resources popping up.
It is. And it's not just the big tech companies. Udemy has a free tutorial called AI for Teachers and Educators, which is great for a quick overview. AWS Training has a bunch of resources on generative AI, including some that are specifically for executives. And NVIDIA, the graphics card company, actually has a deep learning institute that offers programs for educators.
So there's really something for everyone, no matter what their level of expertise is.
Exactly. And even Gartner, the research and advisory company, is predicting that generative AI will be widely adopted in businesses by 2026. So it's really becoming a crucial skill across all industries.
Definitely. Now, one of the resources we looked at for this deep dive was the EDUCAUSE AI webinar series. It focused on supporting AI literacy and best practices in education.
Yeah, that was a really interesting series. It had a lot of different perspectives and practical advice.
So what were some of the key takeaways?
Well, in the first part of the series, David Parsons presented something called the Scaffolded AI Literacy Framework, or SAIL. It basically outlines different levels of AI literacy, from basic awareness all the way up to being able to create AI applications. And he talked about different domains of AI literacy, like understanding AI concepts and digital citizenship.
Sounds pretty comprehensive. What else did they cover?
Angela Gunder and Nicole Weber presented a taxonomy of 8 different AI literacies, which emphasize the importance of ethics, equity, and inclusion. They said there's a big shift happening toward developing students' constructive and critical AI skills.
That makes sense. It's not just about knowing how to use the tools, it's about understanding their impact and being able to think critically about them.
Exactly. And then in the second part of the series, they talked about some practical initiatives that are happening at different institutions. Amy Collier and Tom Woodward from the Digital Detox Initiative talked about their Demystifying AI email course, which is a really hands-on way to learn about things like prompt engineering and bias in AI systems.
I like that they're taking a hands-on approach. It makes it more engaging, I think.
Yeah, definitely. And then there were folks from MIT Sloan who talked about their AI Hub, which provides resources, guidelines, and even secure AI tools for their community. They said they're focusing on building AI resilience, which is interesting.
As opposed to just trying to detect AI use.
Right, exactly. It's about being able to adapt and use AI effectively, even if things go wrong. And then in the third part of the series, they had presentations from the University of Notre Dame and the University of Maryland. Notre Dame talked about their comprehensive AI engagement plan, which covers literacy, ethics, innovation, and data security. And the University of Maryland presented their AI and information literacy module, which is a Canvas-based resource that's been adopted by a bunch of other institutions.
So it's being shared and used widely.
Yeah, it's a really good example of how different universities are working together to develop effective AI literacy resources. And then in the fourth part of the series, they had presentations from the California community colleges and from Martha Burtis, who's an independent consultant. The community colleges talked about their 4-week professional development course on AI literacy, which is available online and even offers graduate credit. And Martha Burtis presented her Design Forward, the AI Challenge module, which is a self-directed program that explores different ways of teaching with, against, and about AI.
It seems like there's a lot of emphasis on providing practical, accessible resources for educators.
Definitely. And then the final part of the series focused on institutional initiatives and the impact of AI on assessment. The University of Florida presented their AI is for Everyone initiative, which includes a three-part framework for understanding AI, AI-designated courses, and faculty development programs. And then there was a presentation from McMaster University about a study they did on generative AI and assessment. They talked about four main approaches that universities are taking: collaboration, critique, content disclosure, and confirmation.
So it's all about being transparent and making sure that students understand how AI is being used in their education.
Exactly. And then another great resource we looked at for this deep dive was the 2025 AI Plus Education Summit, which was hosted by Stanford University's Human-Centered AI Initiative. It was all available on YouTube, which was great.
Oh, I saw some of those videos. They were really interesting. What were some of the highlights?
Well, the first panel discussion was called Harnessing AI to Understand and Advance Human Learning. They are a bunch of experts talking about how AI can be used to accelerate research into how people learn and to develop better educational materials. They also talked about the importance of AI literacy for both students and teachers, especially when it comes to understanding the limitations of AI and the potential for bias.
Because AI isn't perfect, right? It's a tool, but it has its flaws.
Right, exactly. And they also talked about the challenges of scaling AI in education and ensuring that it's accessible to all learners. There was a lot of emphasis on the idea that AI should support teachers, not replace them.
That seems to be a recurring theme in a lot of these discussions about AI and education.
It is, yeah. And then the second panel discussion at the summit was called Empowering Educators: What AI Can and Can't Do for Teachers. They talked about how AI can be used to personalize learning, streamline feedback, and make education more inclusive.
So it's about enhancing what teachers are already doing, not taking over their jobs.
Right. But they also talked about the risks of over-relying on AI and the importance of human oversight, especially when it comes to assessment. They said that AI can't replace the human element in education, like the relationships between teachers and students.
That's really important to remember.
It is. And then the final panel discussion was called AI's Impact on Education. They talked about how AI could potentially widen the gap between those who have access to technology and those who don't, and how important it is to design AI systems that are inclusive and equitable.
So it's not just about the technology itself, it's about how it's used and who has access to it.
Exactly. And they also talked about the need to rethink the curriculum in light of AI. They said that we need to focus on teaching students skills that AI can't replicate, like critical thinking, creativity, and collaboration.
Because those are the skills that will be most valuable in a future where AI is increasingly prevalent.
Right. And then beyond those discussions, we also looked at some other resources that are out there. Ithaca S+R has a generative AI product tracker that keeps track of all the different AI tools that are being developed for higher education. MIT has an AI risk repository that catalogs all the potential risks associated with AI.
Yeah.
And MDPI, which is a publisher, has a special issue on AI in education that has a bunch of research papers.
So there's a lot of research going on in this area.
Oh yeah, tons. And for those who are interested in AI in K-12 education, there's the Evidence Library on AIforeducation.org and Stanford's SCALE initiative, which both have collections of research studies. And if you're looking for books, Al Kingsley has a great list of recommended reading on AI in education.
It's really impressive to see how much information is out there, but it can also be overwhelming, right? Like, where do you even start?
That's why we wanted to do this deep dive. But yeah, it can be a lot. If you're looking to stay up to date on the latest developments, there are a bunch of great newsletters and online communities you can join. There's the EDUCAUSE AI community group, Al's Edu Recommends, Ethymolic's One Useful Thing, and some daily AI news briefings like the Neuron and the Rundown. And then, for more in-depth analysis, there's Import AI and the Algorithmic Bridge. And if you're looking for new tools and strategies, there's Future Tools Weekly and AI Tool Report.
So many options. It's like drinking from a fire hose.
It kind of is, yeah. But there are also some great forums for discussion, like Hugging Face forums and the AI and Education Community of Practice. And then finally, we wanted to touch on the fact that AI is even changing the way we develop software. There are all these YouTube tutorials on tools like Cursor AI, which lets you create apps and websites without writing any code.
No code. That sounds pretty futuristic.
It is, yeah. And it's making it possible for anyone to create software, even if they don't have a technical background. There's a tutorial by Riley Brown on how to build an app called Deep Content using Cursor and Claude. And Matthew Berman has a whole series on vibe coding with Cursor and Windsurf.
So AI is literally changing the way we create technology.
It is. It's pretty mind-blowing when you think about it.
So I guess the big takeaway here is that AI is already having a huge impact on education, and it's
Yeah.
only going to get bigger.
Absolutely. It's changing the way we teach, the way we learn, and even the way we think about education itself.
And while AI offers a lot of amazing opportunities, it's important to approach it with a critical eye and to think about the ethical implications.
Definitely. We need to make sure that we're using AI in a way that benefits all learners and that we're not exacerbating existing inequalities.
And we need to remember that AI is a tool, not a replacement for human connection and interaction.
Exactly. The future of education is going to be a blend of human and artificial intelligence, and it's up to us to shape that future in a way that's equitable, ethical, and ultimately beneficial for everyone. The pace of change is incredible. I was reading a McKinsey report the other day, and they're predicting that generative AI could automate something like 60 to 70% of the time we currently spend on tasks.
60 to 70%, that's a huge chunk of our work and school lives. It's no wonder everyone's talking about the potential impacts of AI on, well, just about everything.
It's definitely a transformative technology, and it's something that higher education institutions like our very own Washington State University are starting to grapple with.
And that's what we're diving into today, right? This whole proposed plan for AI integration at WSU.
Yeah, that's right. And before we get too far, I think it's important to emphasize that this is not some done deal, right? We're not talking about changes that are already set in stone.
So it's more like a roadmap then, a set of ideas and potential actions that WSU is considering for the future.
Exactly. It's a way for the university to start thinking strategically about how to navigate the increasing presence of AI in higher education over the next year or two. It's really about getting ahead of the curve and making sure they're prepared for the challenges and opportunities AI will bring.
That makes sense. I mean, AI is going to have an impact on everything from how students learn to how faculty teach to how the university operates as a whole.
Absolutely. And that's why this potential roadmap is so interesting. It gives us a glimpse into how WSU might approach AI in a holistic way, from setting up policies and infrastructure to providing training and supporting curriculum development.
So it's like a blueprint for responsible AI integration at the university level.
That's a good way to put it.
Now, I know we've got a whole stack of documents here, right? Including what looks like an internal strategy document from WSU itself, plus some articles from Educator's and Inside Higher Ed, and even some reports on AI's impact on the Washington State workforce.
Yep, we did our homework on this one.
So think of this deep dive as your shortcut to understanding what WSU might be doing with AI in the coming years.
We'll distill all the key takeaways and give you a sense of the potential timeline.
Perfect. All right, let's jump in. One of the first things that struck me when I was looking through these documents was the emphasis on policy development and ethical governance. It
Wrong.
seems like WSU recognizes that before you can even start thinking about integrating AI into teaching or research or admin, you need to have some ground rules in place.
Oh, absolutely. That's foundational. And I think it speaks to a growing awareness in higher education that AI isn't just a technology issue, it's an ethical issue, a societal issue.
Yeah. It raises all sorts of questions about things like academic integrity, data privacy, bias, the role of human judgment. The list goes on.
And this proposed plan really seems to acknowledge that. It explicitly calls for the creation of an AI governance committee to oversee all things AI at the university level.
And this isn't just a small committee, is it? I mean, they're not messing around here.
Not at all. It's a high-level council reporting directly to the provost with representation from all across the university. Faculty, administration, IT, legal counsel, students, even the area technology officers are involved.
The ATOs, those are the tech folks embedded within the different colleges and departments, right?
That's right. So they're bringing in expertise from all levels of the university. And it looks like they're aiming to build on WSU's existing AI Council, which was established back in 2023.
So they're not starting from scratch, which is good. And what about the actual policies themselves? What kinds of things would this AI policy cover?
Well, the roadmap lays out several key areas.
Yeah.
One is academic integrity, making sure students understand how to use AI responsibly in their coursework. For example, the policy might include guidelines on when it's okay to use a tool like ChatGPT and when it's not.
Yeah, I can see how that would be important. Students need clear expectations.
Definitely. And faculty need guidance on how to adapt their assignments and assessments to this new AI reality.
So maybe providing sample syllabus statements or something like that.
Exactly. The provost's office might even offer templates to help ensure consistency across departments.
That would be helpful. What else is on the policy agenda?
Well, another big one is ethical use and fairness. WSU wants to ensure that AI is being used in a transparent and equitable way across the university. So they're looking at things like regularly reviewing AI tools for potential biases.
Bias is a big concern with AI, so that's good to see.
Definitely. And then, of course, there's data privacy and security. The roadmap specifically mentions rules against inputting sensitive university data into external AI tools without proper safeguards.
Like, you wouldn't want student data ending up in some random chat bot, right?
Right. So they're exploring secure, vetted AI solutions and making sure everything complies with FERPA, all the relevant regulations.
And they'd also need to think about intellectual property, right? Like, who owns the copyright to work that's created using AI?
Exactly. The policy would cover things like authorship and attribution when AI is used in research, as well as clarifying who owns the IP for AI-generated works created at WSU.
Yeah.
So they're really trying to think through all the legal and ethical angles here.
It's comprehensive, that's for sure. But
Yeah.
it's not just a top-down thing, right? I mean, it sounds like they're actually planning to involve the university community in developing these policies.
Oh, yeah, that's a key part of the plan. They're emphasizing a collaborative and transparent process. The roadmap mentions things like community forums, surveys, even potential policy design sprint workshops to get input from everyone who will be affected.
So students, faculty, staff, everyone has a chance to weigh in.
Exactly. They want to make sure the policies are practical and address real concerns. And then, once they have a draft policy, they'll circulate it for feedback before anything is finalized.
That's good. I mean, with something as complex and rapidly evolving as AI, you need that kind of iterative process. You can't just set policies in stone and expect them to stay relevant.
Absolutely. The roadmap acknowledges that these policies will need regular updates and audits, at least annually, maybe even more frequently.
To keep pace with the changes in technology and best practices.
That's right. And the AI Governance Council would oversee that process.
So you've got the policies, the oversight, the collaborative development process. What about making sure everyone actually understands these policies? Any plans for training?
Oh, definitely. The roadmap suggests a brief ethics and compliance training for all faculty and staff, probably an online module with some scenarios to illustrate the guidelines.
Like interactive case studies or something?
Yeah, something like that, just to make sure everyone's on the same page. They also mentioned potentially collaborating with other Pac-12 or regional universities to share best practices and resources.
So working together to figure out this whole AI thing.
Exactly. Collaboration is going to be key.
So if we zoom out a bit, what's the big picture outcome that WSU is hoping for with all this policy work?
The goal is to have a clear AI policy framework and an active governance body in place within the first 6 to 12 months. And I think the bigger picture is about building trust. By being transparent and thoughtful about AI, they're demonstrating that they're taking these issues seriously.
Yeah, it shows that they're committed to responsible AI integration, which is a big deal considering all the potential risks and concerns that are out there.
Right. They want to make sure that any AI option at WSU aligns with the university's mission and ethical standards. And having these policies in place is a good first step. But policies are just one part of the equation. They also need the infrastructure to support AI adoption.
Absolutely. So let's shift gears and talk about the nuts and bolts, the actual technology and resources that will be needed. And I'm curious, what's the proposed approach to infrastructure given all the budget constraints that universities are facing these days?
Right. Well, that's a key point. The roadmap is very realistic about the current budget limitations. They're not talking about building a massive new AI supercomputing center or anything like that.
Yeah. So no big spending sprees.
Not according to this plan. Their focus is on maximizing existing resources and making strategic investments where they'll have the most impact.
Smart. So what does that look like in practice?
Well, for one thing, they're looking at upgrading GPUs on existing servers. GPUs are these specialized processors that are really good at the kind of calculations AI needs.
So boosting the AI capabilities of their current infrastructure.
Exactly. And they're also prioritizing partnerships with major cloud providers like AWS, Azure, Google Cloud. The idea is to try to secure free or low-cost credits for AI services, which would give researchers and departments access to a lot more computing power without having to spend a lot of money up front.
Makes sense. And what about the network itself? Can WSU's current network handle the increased traffic that AI will bring?
That's a good question. The plan suggests making small, targeted improvements to the existing network infrastructure where it's absolutely necessary.
So no need for a complete overhaul.
Not according to the roadmap. Their reasoning is that a lot of AI tools rely on cloud-based services anyway, which the current network can already handle. The focus would be on optimizing underutilized infrastructure and making sure everyone has equitable access across all the campuses.
Okay, so they're being strategic about their network upgrades. What about the actual AI software and tools? Are they planning to buy a bunch of new stuff?
Again, the emphasis is on resourcefulness. The roadmap talks about leveraging AI tools that are already included in existing software licenses, like Microsoft 365 Copilot, for example, once it becomes widely available.
So getting the most out of what they're already paying for.
Exactly. And they also want to promote the use of open source platforms and tools. Things like Jupyter Hub with AI libraries and free tier cloud services. These are all options that can provide a lot of functionality without breaking the bank.
And I noticed they mentioned something about chatbots, too.
Yeah, they're interested in exploring lightweight open source chatbot solutions that could be integrated with existing IT platforms.
Potentially for things like student services or IT support.
Exactly. It's about finding ways to use AI to make those services more efficient and accessible. And speaking of accessibility, I really like their idea for an AI sandbox.
The AI sandbox, what's that?
It's essentially a virtual environment where faculty, staff, and students can experiment with different AI tools and platforms.
Sort of like a playground for AI exploration.
Exactly. And the best part is they're not building a whole new lab for this. They're just leveraging existing computer labs and virtual resources.
So again, maximizing what they already have.
Exactly. It's a really creative solution.
Now, what about making sure that everyone has access to these resources, regardless of their financial situation?
Equity is definitely a consideration. The roadmap talks about strengthening existing equitable access programs and making sure that computer labs are AI ready. They're also looking at optimizing their inventory of loaner devices.
So students who might not have their own powerful computers can still participate?
Right. And they're also exploring external funding opportunities like grants and donations to help bridge any gaps.
So the overall goal with infrastructure is to provide broad access to AI tools and computing resources without having to make huge new investments.
That seems to be the strategy. And I think it's a smart one, given the current financial realities. It's all about being resourceful and prioritizing what's most important. But having the infrastructure is just part of the equation, right? You also need people who know how to use it effectively. And that brings us to the next big piece of this roadmap: faculty and staff training and AI literacy development.
Exactly. You can have the fanciest AI tools in the world, but if people don't know how to use them, it's all for nothing.
Right, and I think WSU recognizes that. They're putting a lot of emphasis on professional development and building AI literacy across the university.
And they're actually planning to adopt a specific framework for this, aren't they? Something like what Barnard College is doing.
Yeah, the roadmap mentions adopting and customizing an AI literacy framework similar to Barnard's 4 levels: awareness, application, analysis, and creation.
And those levels basically represent a progression of AI understanding and skills, right?
Exactly. Awareness is about having a basic understanding of what AI is and what it can do. Application is being able to use existing AI tools in your work. Analysis is being able to critically evaluate AI outputs and understand their limitations. And creation is about being able to build or customize AI solutions.
So it's like a ladder, with each level building on the previous one.
That's a good analogy. And the idea is to provide training opportunities at each of these levels.
So something for everyone, regardless of their starting point.
Right. They're calling it the AI at WSU training series.
Catchy. And what kinds of training are they planning to offer?
Well, for the awareness level, they're thinking about short online courses or webinars that introduce the basic concepts of AI. These could be offered monthly or on a rolling basis.
So like an AI 101.
Exactly. And then for the application level, they're planning more hands-on workshops that focus on specific use cases. For example, a workshop on using generative AI for lesson planning, or a workshop on using AI tools for data analysis.
And I imagine these workshops would be tailored to different disciplines, right?
Yeah, the plan mentions leveraging the ATOs to host these workshops within their colleges. So a workshop for humanities faculty might look very different from a workshop for engineering faculty.
That makes a lot of sense. Training that's relevant to your specific field.
Absolutely. And then for the more advanced levels, analysis and creation, they're looking at things like multi-day boot camps or online course series on topics like AI programming, data science fundamentals, AI ethics.
So for folks who want to go deeper into the technical aspects.
Right. And they might even offer certificates or digital badges for completing this advanced training.
So there's a credentialing component as well.
It seems like it.
Yeah.
And beyond formal training, the roadmap also talks about fostering a community around AI learning.
So creating opportunities for people to connect with each other and share ideas.
Exactly. They're encouraging faculty and staff to form interest groups and learning communities around AI, and the ATOs would play a role in facilitating those connections.
I like that. Peer learning can be really powerful.
Absolutely. And they're also looking at integrating AI topics into existing professional development opportunities, like teaching retreats or new faculty orientation.
So making AI a regular part of the conversation.
Right. And it looks like they're also planning to create an online repository of training materials and guides.
So a central hub for all things AI training at WSU.
Exactly. And to incentivize people to participate, they're even talking about things like AI-ready educator certificates and highlighting AI innovators on campus.
So recognizing and rewarding people who are engaging with AI.
Exactly. And throughout all this training, there's an emphasis on not just the how of using AI, but also the when and the why.
So ethical considerations, pedagogical implications, the importance of human judgment.
All of that. They want to make sure that people are using AI thoughtfully and responsibly.
It's not just about adopting the latest shiny tool. It's about understanding how to use it effectively and ethically.
Exactly. And the goal is to have a broad base of AI literate faculty and staff within a couple of years.
So by, say, 2027, every faculty and staff member would have access to at least basic AI training, and a significant subset would have engaged in deeper learning.
That's the proposed outcome. And they'll be tracking metrics along the way to see if they're meeting their goals.
Okay, so we've got the policies, the infrastructure, the training. Now, the big question is how AI actually gets integrated into what students are learning.
The curriculum, right.
Yeah.
That's the heart of it all. And this is where things get really interesting.
Because AI has the potential to transform how we teach and how students learn in pretty fundamental ways.
No doubt. And the roadmap really seems to acknowledge that. The goal is to infuse AI concepts and tools throughout the curriculum, from general education to major-specific courses.
And they're aiming to do this within the next 1 to 2 years. That's ambitious.
It is, but I think it reflects the urgency of the situation. AI is moving so fast. Higher education needs to keep pace.
So how are they approaching this curriculum integration?
Well, for general education, they're considering a couple of different options. One is to develop a foundational AI course, something like an introduction to AI and society.
That would give all undergraduates a baseline understanding of AI.
Exactly. The other option is to embed AI modules into existing gen ed courses.
So adding an AI component to a writing class or a history class.
Right. The idea is to make AI literacy a core part of every student's education.
I like that. It's not just for computer science majors anymore.
Definitely not. And then, within specific majors, they're encouraging each college and department to identify ways that AI can enhance their existing curriculum.
So tailoring the AI integration to the specific needs of each field?
Exactly. They give a bunch of examples in the roadmap. Journalism students could learn about AI tools for media production. Agriculture students could use AI software for precision farming. Business students could learn about AI for market forecasting. The possibilities are endless.
It's about preparing students for a world where AI is going to be ubiquitous.
Absolutely. And it's not just about updating existing courses. They're also talking about creating new programs and credentials that focus specifically on AI.
So things like an AI minor or a graduate certificate in AI.
Exactly. And they're encouraging integrated programs where students can combine a traditional major with AI or data science.
So you could have a student who majors in biology and minors in AI.
Right, or a student who gets a dual degree in business and data analytics.
That's really interesting. It's about giving students the flexibility to blend their interests and prepare for the jobs of the future.
Absolutely. And it's not just about the content of the curriculum either. They're also looking at how AI can change the way teaching itself is done.
So using AI to personalize learning pathways or automate some aspects of grading and feedback.
Exactly. They're considering piloting those kinds of tools in large introductory courses.
I can see how that could be really helpful for students.
Yeah, it could free up instructors to focus on more high-level tasks and provide students with more individualized support.
But it also raises questions about the role of the instructor and the importance of human interaction.
For sure. And the roadmap acknowledges that. They're emphasizing the need for faculty training on how to effectively supervise AI outputs and ensure quality control.
It's about using AI to augment human capabilities, not replace them.
Exactly. And as AI takes on more tasks, the nature of assignments might also need to change.
So less emphasis on rote memorization and more on critical thinking and creativity.
Right. The roadmap talks about designing assignments that require students to critique AI-generated content or solve open-ended problems that AI can't easily handle.
It's about pushing students to think critically and develop skills that will be valuable in an AI-driven world.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And to make sure the curriculum stays relevant, they're planning to implement a fast cycle feedback mechanism.
So regular reviews and updates based on input from faculty, students, the AI Governance Council.
Exactly. The curriculum needs to be dynamic and responsive in the age of AI.
And beyond the classroom, are there any plans to give students hands-on experience with AI?
Oh, definitely. The roadmap talks about expanding experiential learning opportunities with AI. They're talking about supporting undergraduate research projects, hosting hackathons, even potentially creating a WSU AI challenge.
That would be cool.
Yeah, and they're encouraging more internships with companies working in AI.
So giving students real-world experience with AI applications.
Exactly. And they're also encouraging the growth of graduate programs and research initiatives in AI and related fields.
So building up WSU's expertise in AI across the board.
That's the idea. They want to be a leader in this space.
So it's a pretty ambitious vision for how AI could transform teaching and learning at WSU.
It is. And it's going to be really interesting to see how it all plays out in the coming years. But one thing's for sure, with a plan this comprehensive, WSU is positioning itself to be at the forefront of AI in higher education.
Absolutely. But with any plan, especially one this ambitious, it's important to have mechanisms in place to see if it's actually working.
Oh, for sure. And that's where continuous evaluation comes in.
And it sounds like that's baked into this proposed plan from the start.
It is. The roadmap really emphasizes the need for ongoing evaluation and improvement. They want to make sure that they're tracking progress, gathering feedback, and adjusting their strategy as needed.
So what would that look like in practice? How would they measure success?
Well, they're planning to define specific success metrics and KPIs across all areas of the plan.
So for policy, infrastructure, training, curriculum, even operational impact.
Exactly. And those KPIs would be tailored to each area. For example, for policy, they might track the percentage of departments that are compliant with the new AI guidelines.
And for infrastructure, they might track the utilization rates of AI computing resources.
Right. For training, they might track the number of faculty and staff who have completed training at each AI literacy level.
And for curriculum, they might track the number of courses that incorporate AI elements.
Exactly. And for operational impact, they might look at things like efficiency gains in administrative processes.
So a whole range of metrics to give them a holistic view of how AI integration is progressing.
Absolutely. And they're planning to gather data through a variety of channels.
Like surveys, feedback forms, focus groups, that sort of thing.
Yeah, all of that. They also plan to leverage data from the learning management system, AI software usage logs, even support tickets.
So using data to get a real-time sense of how things are working?
Right. And all of this data would be analyzed and compiled into an annual AI integration report.
Which would be overseen by the AI Governance Council.
Exactly. And that report would be used to identify areas where things are going well and areas where adjustments are needed.
So it's about creating a feedback loop, right?
Absolutely. It's about constantly learning and improving. And the roadmap even mentions risk monitoring and mitigation. The AI Governance Council would maintain a risk register for potential issues related to AI integration.
So trying to anticipate problems before they arise.
Right. And they also plan to align their evaluation efforts with accreditation requirements. And they might even seek an external review of their AI integration after a couple of years.
So getting an outside perspective to make sure they're on the right track.
Exactly. It's a really comprehensive approach to evaluation. And I think it shows that they're serious about making this work.
Now, we've talked a lot about central initiatives, but it seems like a key part of making this all work on the ground is the role of the area technology officers.
Well, the ATOs are going to be crucial. They're the ones who are going to bridge the gap between central initiatives and local needs.
They're like the AI ambassadors for their colleges and departments.
That's a good way to put it. And the roadmap outlines a pretty broad set of responsibilities for them.
So what are some of the things they'll be doing?
Well, they'll be responsible for communicating about AI integration to their colleagues, explaining the policies and resources, answering questions, addressing concerns.
So helping to build buy-in at the local level.
Yeah, exactly. And they'll also be involved in training, They'll be facilitating workshops, offering one-on-one consultations, even coordinating pilot projects.
So they're really going to be the go-to people for AI in their areas.
Right. And they'll also be responsible for gathering feedback and relaying local needs back to the central AI team.
So acting as a liaison between the central team and the departments.
Exactly. And they'll also be involved in generating case studies and providing support for AI tools.
So documenting and sharing best practices.
Right. And importantly, they'll be helping to build community around AI. They'll be encouraging faculty and staff to connect with each other and share ideas.
So fostering a culture of AI innovation.
Exactly. And to make sure they're equipped for all of this, the roadmap talks about investing in their own professional development in AI.
So making sure that they're up to speed on the latest developments.
Right. They're going to need to be the experts in their areas.
And the hope is that by empowering the ATOs, they'll be able to drive more grassroots adoption of AI.
That's the idea. It's a bottom-up approach as much as a top-down approach.
Now, to tie everything together, there's also a plan for a centralized online resource.
The AI at WSU website.
Right. And this is going to be the hub for all things AI at WSU.
Exactly. It'll host all the policies, guidelines, training materials, resources, case studies, you name it.
So a one-stop shop for all things AI.
That's the idea.
Yeah,
And they're going to make sure it's user-friendly and accessible.
that's important. You want people to actually use it.
Right. And it'll be jointly managed by the Provost's office and IT with input from the AI Governance Council.
So a collaborative effort.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And the hope is that this website will become the go-to resource for anyone who wants to learn about or engage with AI at WSU.
Well, that's a really comprehensive overview of this proposed roadmap.
So get this. A recent study shows that employers are saying, for many roles, actually showing you have specific skills, like being able to do the thing, is becoming just as important as a traditional degree.
Maybe even more important.
Yeah, more important even. And that's the big shift we're diving into today. Like, how can people actually gain and, crucially, prove they have those in-demand skills quickly?
Right, because it's one thing to say, I'm good at teamwork, but another to actually have a trusted way to back that up.
Totally. And a big part of that answer is the rise of these micro-credentials. Short, focused programs, often leading to digital badges that you can actually use.
And these aren't just random online courses, right? We're seeing real institutions getting involved.
Exactly. So today we're going to unpack this really interesting initiative from Washington State University, WSU. They're planning to launch this whole AI-driven micro-credentialing program, and they're starting with a SMART focus, essential soft skills.
Which is super relevant, right? Because this initiative really speaks to something so many people struggle with.
Yeah, like how do you actually get those practical skills employers want, quickly and efficiently?
And then, how do you prove you have them? That's the key. Because traditional education often gives you a broad foundation, which is great, but this WSU approach is all about targeting those super specific skills employers are looking for right now.
So it's kind of like, okay, you need someone who can give amazing presentations. Boom, here's your micro-credential, and you can trust it because of how it was built and validated.
Exactly. So we've been looking at their Part 6 AI-driven microcredentialing document.
It's dense.
It is. And our mission today is to figure out exactly how WSU is planning to blend this powerful AI tech with the expertise of their faculty to create these microcredentials.
Ones that are valuable, yeah, but more importantly, trusted, especially in those tricky areas like communication and teamwork.
Right. Like, how do you even assess that in a reliable way? That's what we're going to find out.
Okay, so first things first, just for anyone who might be new to this whole thing, what are micro-credentials and why should our listeners even care?
So think of microcredentials like focused learning sprints, almost.
Oh, okay, I like that.
Yeah. They're designed to help you master a really specific skill or a small set of closely related skills,
So not a whole degree, but a targeted piece of it, essentially.
Right. And when you successfully complete one, you usually get a digital badge. Think of it like a verifiable symbol of your achievement.
Oh, like those things you can put on your LinkedIn profile.
Exactly. And the cool thing is, these programs are often designed to be finished in under a year.
Wow, so much faster than a traditional degree program.
Way faster. And in a lot of cases, they can stack up, meaning you can build towards a larger certificate or even a full degree eventually. So it's really flexible and targeted.
It sounds like WSU is in a good position to be a leader in all this. That document mentioned that back in 2023, only about 9% of universities had fully developed these micro-credential programs.
Right, just 9%. So there's a huge opportunity here for WSU to really stand out.
I mean, getting in early like this, they could become the place people go to for those credible, skill-based validations.
For sure. And their focus on those fundamental soft skills is so smart.
It's what everyone needs, right? We're talking things like clear and effective communication, being able to think critically and solve problems, working well in teams.
Even things like good email etiquette, professional writing, essentially.
Yes, and something we all could use a little help with,
Yeah,
actually knowing how to take feedback well and use it.
right. That's huge. And when you look at what employers actually want, the numbers are pretty clear. Like almost 90% of them say problem-solving skills are essential when they're hiring.
No surprise there. What else?
Teamwork is also massive. Something like 80% of employers value that really highly. And communication skills, consistently ranked #1 year after year globally. It's always at the top.
So WSU's focus here lines up perfectly with what employers actually need.
Right. It's a pathway to those skills that are truly valued in the job market.
So we've established they're targeting the right skills, and the timing seems good for this kind of program. But how are they actually going to do it? This blend of AI and human expertise, that's what I'm curious about.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
So how does that actually work?
Okay, so their strategy has 3 main parts. First, they're going to use AI for efficiency and scale, especially with content creation.
Makes sense.
But, and this is key, they're combining that with the academic rigor and real-world experience of faculty. So it's not just AI gone wild.
The humans are still in control.
Absolutely. And the third part is secure in-person proctoring to guarantee credibility.
Okay, let's break this down, starting with the AI. When they say AI-powered workflow, what does that even mean?
So they're using these advanced AI systems, specifically open source large language models.
What are those?
Think of it like the tech behind ChatGPT or those other language AI tools.
Okay, so pretty sophisticated stuff.
Yeah. But they're using a specific one called OpenAllama. It's powerful, but the advantage is they can customize it.
So they're not just using some generic chatbot.
Nope. They're fine-tuning it specifically for making educational content.
Interesting. What's the process like?
First, the faculty experts come in and they define the exact learning outcomes for each microcredential. Like, what should you actually be able to do after you finish it?
Very specific, goal-oriented stuff.
Exactly. And they also create a really detailed outline of what the curriculum should cover. It's basically giving the AI super clear instructions.
So the AI knows its boundaries.
Totally. Then, guided by that outline and using all these relevant learning materials, the AI generates the first draft of the content.
Which could include?
Oh, all kinds of stuff. The main lesson text, practical examples to illustrate things, even real-world case studies so you can apply what you're learning. They even mentioned it could generate speaker notes or slides.
Wow, that's a lot.
It is.
Yeah.
And think about how much time that saves the faculty.
Makes sense. But here's my question. How do they make sure all that AI-generated content is actually good?
Ugh, the million-dollar question. They have this thing called a retrieval augmented setup. It's probably using a system called Haystack. You know, like finding the needle in the haystack.
Clever. So how does it work?
Basically, the AI isn't just making stuff up. It pulls information from sources they trust. Academic stuff from WSU, industry best practices, research, all that. So it's drawing on a curated library, not just the whole internet.
Okay, that makes me feel better already. But how can you be sure what it's pulling is accurate?
Well, that's where the explainable AI part comes in. The AI has to show its work, basically. It cites its sources and explains why it chose to include certain information.
So you can trace everything back.
Exactly. Like, let's say the AI is building a module on professional email etiquette. It might take info directly from WSU's own guidelines on business communication.
And the faculty can see exactly where that came from.
Yep. And they can check if it's accurate and up to date. It just builds more trust in the whole process.
That makes sense. So the content part is covered. But what about assessments? Like making quizzes and stuff that can take forever.
Yeah, and don't forget about role-playing scenarios. Those are super important for assessing soft skills.
True. So does AI help with that too?
Oh, yeah. Big time. They're using generative AI to create all kinds of assessments. They specifically mentioned Moodle.
Moodle.
It's a learning management system, like a platform for online courses. It's open source, so WSU can customize it. And they mentioned plugins, like this generative AI question bank.
What can that do?
Well, it can automatically create multiple choice questions, short answer prompts, all based on the course material. But they're going even further, using AI to create those scenario-based questions and even full-on role-playing scenarios.
Wow.
Like imagine you're doing a microcredential on communication. The AI might create a situation where you have to reply to a really tough customer email.
So you're actually using the skills in a realistic setting.
Exactly. But here's the crucial part. All those AI-generated assessments get reviewed and edited by faculty experts before they're used.
The human touch again.
Exactly. And sometimes the AI can even create sample answers, explanations for those answers, and even scoring rubrics.
So it gives the faculty a starting point, but they always have the final say.
Exactly. And it's not just for the faculty. Having those rubrics helps the students too. They know exactly what's expected of them.
Okay, so the AI is basically like this super efficient assistant, but the faculty are the ones who make sure everything's top-notch.
Right. It's a collaboration.
Makes sense. But what about the actual learning experience? Can AI help students while they're going through the program?
Oh, yeah. They're planning to have an AI-powered tutoring component built right into Moodle.
Like an AI tutor?
Pretty much. Imagine you're working on a module about critical thinking, and you get stuck on something like, what's confirmation bias? You can just ask the AI tutor.
And it'll explain it using the course material.
Exactly. It'll pull from all those approved sources we talked about, using systems like Haystack to understand and access the content.
Cool. So you get immediate help without having to wait for a professor to answer your email.
Right. It's like having a 257 study buddy. But here's the thing. All those interactions with the AI tutors are logged.
So faculty can keep an eye on things.
Exactly. They can see what students are struggling with, which parts of the material might need to be clearer, and make sure the AI tutor is actually being helpful. It's all about accountability and ensuring quality.
That's reassuring. So we have the content, the assessments, the tutoring. But how's all this stuff delivered to the students?
Moodle, remember, that learning management system, that's the central hub for everything.
Like an online classroom.
Exactly. And they're going to use all sorts of open source plugins to make it even better. Things like H5P, that's for creating interactive exercises, so it's not just reading and taking quizzes.
So you can actually practice the skills.
Right. And there's stuff for tracking your progress so you can see how you're doing. And get this, AI might even help manage the online discussion forums.
Like how?
It could summarize key points, pick out common questions. It could even offer hints during practice activities.
So the AI is really integrated into the whole learning process.
Yeah, but again, it's all about human in the loop.
Meaning?
If the AI isn't sure about something, if it thinks an answer might be wrong or inappropriate, it flags it for a human to review.
So it's not just AI making decisions on its own.
Nope. And they'll regularly check everything the AI does just to make sure it's all good. It's all about keeping that academic integrity.
Makes sense. Now, what about grading? How does AI fit into that?
So for those quick quizzes, multiple choice and stuff, AI can automatically grade them and give students feedback right away.
That's super helpful for learning.
For sure. But for those bigger, more complex assignments, writing an email, analyzing a case study, doing a role play, the AI might give a preliminary grade based on the rubrics created by the faculty.
But the humans still have the final say.
Absolutely. A faculty member will always look it over and make the final decision.
So it's like a two-step process. The AI helps speed things up, but the human expertise is still essential.
Exactly. And all those records for the bigger assignments, they'll be stored securely.
And if the AI makes mistakes with the grading,
they'll analyze those mistakes and use them to improve the AI models. It's a learning process for the AI too, right?
makes sense. And the system is designed to be modular, right?
Yep. So as new and better AI comes along, they can plug it in without having to rebuild everything.
Smart.
Oh, and they're even planning to do a test run using tabletop simulations.
Like a practice round.
Exactly, just to iron out any kinks before they launch the real thing.
So the AI side is pretty clear. But what about the faculty-driven content validation? That sounds super important for making sure these micro-credentials are actually legit.
It's essential. It's how they guarantee the academic quality and make sure these micro-credentials are relevant to the real world. Faculty oversight is built into every stage of the process.
So how does that look in practice?
They're going to have these SME curriculum committees. SME stands for subject matter expert.
Faculty, basically.
Right. And each committee focuses on a specific skill area. Like there might be a communication microcredential committee made up of faculty from English, communication studies, even business.
So it's interdisciplinary.
Exactly. And these committees have a few big jobs. First, they decide on the specific learning outcomes for each microcredential, like what exactly should you be able to do when you finish it.
Very concrete, measurable stuff.
Yep. Second, they review everything the AI creates, the lessons, examples, case studies, everything. And finally, they approve all the assessments.
So the AI proposes, but the faculty disposes.
Exactly. And it all starts with the faculty creating a super detailed framework for each micro-credential. Like, for a teamwork and collaboration one, they might say it has to cover conflict resolution, planning as a team, communicating across cultures, stuff like that.
So the AI has a very clear roadmap.
Totally. And once the AI creates a draft, the faculty committee reviews it. They'll use a special interface where they can see the AI-generated text and the sources the AI used.
Transparency.
Yep. And they can edit, add, remove, whatever they need to make sure the final version is accurate and meets WSU's standards.
But it's not just a casual glance, right? It's a formal process.
Oh, yeah, it's super rigorous. It's kind of like the peer review process for academic papers.
I see. So it's taken very seriously.
Definitely. Anything the AI creates is labeled as a draft. It only gets official approval when at least 2 faculty members from the committee have reviewed it and given it their digital stamp of approval. And get this, every single edit, suggestion, comment, it's all logged using version control systems.
Like a detailed history of changes.
Yep. So they have a record of everything. And they'll involve instructional designers, too.
What do?
They help the faculty make the AI stuff into really engaging and effective learning experiences.
So it's not just about the content, but how it's taught.
Exactly. It's about good teaching practices.
Yeah.
And because the AI has to cite its sources, the faculty can easily check if the information is accurate. In the end, this whole process means the final product has WSU's stamp of approval.
So it's legit.
Totally.
Now, what about the assessments themselves? We talked about how AI can create them, but how do the faculty make sure those assessments are actually good?
That's a great question. So faculty will review every single assessment the AI comes up with, especially for those high-stakes ones. That means the quiz questions, prompts for assignments, those role-playing scenarios, everything.
To check every question.
Yep. They want to make sure the questions are clear, that they match the learning objectives, and that they're actually testing the right skills.
So if a question is confusing or irrelevant, it gets tossed.
Exactly. Like if the AI creates a rubric for grading a professional email, the faculty will scrutinize it.
To make sure it really reflects what good email writing looks like.
Exactly. And they can add things the AI might have missed, like ethical considerations. It's all about making the assessment fair and accurate.
So the AI is a helpful tool, but the faculty are the ones who make sure the assessments are actually meaningful.
Right. It's all about quality control.
It sounds like the faculty are involved way beyond just the initial setup. It's an ongoing thing.
Oh, yeah. It's continuous. The subject matter expert committees, they meet regularly to look at the results of the microcredentials and update things as needed.
Like what kind of updates?
Well, they look at the data, like what questions are students getting wrong a lot? Where are they asking the AI tutor for help? That kind of stuff. It tells them where the materials might need to be improved.
And because the AI is so fast, they can make those changes quickly.
Exactly. If they need a new case study, they can tell the AI to make one, review it, and boom, it's in the course.
It's pretty agile.
For sure. And WSU is serious about valuing the faculty's work. They're talking about formal recognition and even potentially paying them for their time.
Which is only fair.
Right. And they want input from industry professionals and alumni, too.
To get that real-world perspective.
Exactly. And here's the big one. No microcredential is awarded without faculty approval.
So they have the final say.
Absolutely. The digital badge might even have the name of a faculty committee chair on it or a statement saying it was faculty approved.
Adds that extra level of legitimacy.
For sure. And they'll review any borderline cases, where it's not clear if a student passed. They can even deny a credential if they think the student didn't really demonstrate the skills.
So there's real weight behind these micro-credentials.
Absolutely. Okay, so we've covered the AI, the faculty role. There's one more big piece, the proctoring infrastructure.
Why is proctoring so important, especially for soft skills? You'd think those would be harder to test in person anyway?
Yeah, it's interesting, right? But WSU is making this a core part of their plan. They're setting up these secure, in-person proctoring centers on each campus.
They're really serious about this.
They are. And it's all about addressing a concern that a lot of employers have. How do you know the person who earned the badge actually did the work?
Especially online, right? Anyone can cheat.
Exactly. So By requiring this supervised in-person final assessment, they're basically saying, we verified this person's identity and they really demonstrated these skills.
It adds a ton of credibility.
Huge credibility boost.
So what will these testing centers be like?
Think of a typical university testing environment. Quiet rooms, maybe computer labs, spaced out workstations, and some form of monitoring to keep things honest.
Like cameras or proctors walking around?
Exactly. And they'll use software to lock down the computers for online exams. Plus, there'll be standardized procedures across all campuses.
So it's consistent and fair.
Exactly. And these centers will be open to current WSU students and people from outside the university.
Oh, interesting. So anyone can potentially earn these micro-credentials.
That's the idea.
How will the proctoring work with the online modules?
Okay, so you do the online stuff in Moodle, right? Then, to earn the micro-credential, you have to schedule and pass a proctored final assessment at one of the centers.
That's like the last hurdle.
Right. And the scheduling system will be built into Moodle. So when you're ready, you just book a slot online.
Convenient.
Super convenient. WSU students will probably use their student ID to verify their identity.
What about everyone else?
They'll need a regular photo ID, and on the day of the exam, a trained proctor will check your ID, give you the instructions, and supervise you during the whole thing.
What kinds of assessments will there be?
It depends on the microcredential, but they'll be the same ones the faculty approved in Moodle. It might be a written exam, a computer-based test, maybe even a presentation or role play.
So it really tests those soft skills in action.
For sure. And they'll have secure storage for your stuff, monitoring software on the computers, maybe even webcams. It's all about making sure it's legit.
Will it be free for WSU students?
They're planning to make it free or very cheap for their students. Maybe a few free proctoring vouchers each semester.
That's great.
And people who aren't WSU students will probably pay a fee somewhere between $30 and $50.
Pretty reasonable.
Yeah, it's on par with what other places charge. And they want to get the word out to the public, so they'll be advertising the centers.
Makes sense.
Okay, so we've got these testing centers, but who's actually running them?
Yeah, who are these proctors?
It'll probably be existing staff from testing centers or other WSU staff who get specific training.
And what does that training cover?
Well, they'll learn about the content of the assessment so they can spot cheating, but the main focus is on security procedures. Checking IDs, monitoring students, reading instructions, handling any issues, and knowing the honor code rules. They're taking it seriously.
I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah. And for online exams, there might be screen recording or even webcam monitoring. For anything off computer, they'll have ways to collect the students' work securely.
Sounds very thorough.
They want these micro-credentials to be trustworthy.
So how are they going to handle the logistics of all this?
Well, to start, they'll probably have specific testing windows, maybe 1 week each month, where they offer the exams.
Just to make it manageable.
Exactly. And they'll have a central online system for booking slots. So no matter which campus you're at, you can see what's available and sign up.
Super convenient.
Yep. And they'll keep track of how busy the centers are, how well they're working, and adjust things as needed. If demand explodes, they might even partner with other places, like community colleges, to offer more testing sites.
But they want to start by having a strong system they control directly.
Exactly. Okay, so we've talked about the AI, the faculty, the proctoring. How does all this come together to benefit employers and learners?
Yeah, what's the big payoff?
It's all about creating something trustworthy. For employers, it's a way to know that the skills on someone's resume are legit.
They see a professional communication micro-credential from WSU, and they know it means something.
Exactly. Because the content was reviewed by faculty and the final test was done in a secure setting, they can trust it.
So it's a much better indicator of someone's actual abilities than just saying, I'm good at communicating.
For sure. And for learners, it's a way to gain skills that are directly relevant to what employers want.
It's not just theoretical knowledge, but practical, job-ready skills.
Right. And the digital badge you get when you finish it tells a story. It lists the competencies you demonstrated, how you were assessed. It's way more detailed than a transcript.
So it's a powerful way to show what you can do.
Absolutely. And because of the AI and the faculty working together, you get quality assurance, you know you're getting a good learning experience, and the credential is something employers will respect. Plus, it's coming from WSU, a well-known university.
So it carries weight.
Big time. And they're talking about getting endorsements from industry groups and forming partnerships, which will make it even more valuable. It's all about making these micro-credentials the gold standard.
I'm really impressed with how they've thought this through.
Me too.
Okay, you mentioned some examples of the micro-credentials they might offer. Can you remind us what those were?
Yeah, so they mentioned effective communication and active listening. You might learn about listening techniques, clear writing, all that. The curriculum would be validated by communication faculty, and then you'd have a final challenge, like giving a presentation or handling a tough conversation.
All in a proctored setting.
Yep. Another one is critical thinking and problem solving. You might work through case studies generated by AI, but with faculty, making sure the critical thinking methods are solid. And the final assessment might involve analyzing a complex problem and coming up with a solution.
Very real world.
Definitely. They also mentioned teamwork and collaboration, maybe with AI-driven role-playing, faculty input on what makes a good teamwork, and a final assessment where you're actually working in a simulated team.
Sounds intense.
Then there's professional writing, focusing on emails and reports. The AI might give you feedback on your drafts, but the faculty set the standards. And the final assignment might be writing a professional document under time pressure.
Like a real job.
Exactly. And last but not least, there's receiving and implementing feedback, which is so important. You might interact with an AI that simulates different types of feedback, but the faculty will make sure it's all about growth mindset. And then in the proctored final, you might have to show you can take feedback and actually use it to improve your work.
So it's not just about hearing it, but actually applying it.
Right. And in each of these examples, it's that combo of AI, faculty, and proctoring that makes the microcredential truly credible.
It's like a three-legged stool.
I like that. You need all three for it to stand strong.
So WSU's plan is basically AI does the heavy lifting, faculty make sure it's all good and relevant, and proctoring guarantees it's legit.
Exactly. It's a pretty smart approach, if you ask me.
I agree. It's a glimpse into what the future of education could be.
More focused, more efficient, and more credible.
It really makes you think, what skills do I need to be competitive? What micro-credentials could help me get ahead?
Those are great questions for all our listeners to consider.
Absolutely. As the job market keeps changing, being able to show you have the right skills is more important than ever.
Couldn't agree more.
Today, we're going to be talking about AI solutions that are being used in higher education, specifically open source solutions.
Yeah.
So we have this really interesting article that lays out a bunch of different examples of how universities are actually using these tools.
Oh, yeah.
And it's all about improving efficiency and addressing key concerns, particularly things like data privacy,
Right.
which is, obviously huge for universities.
Of course.
So our mission today, I guess you could say, is to walk away understanding how these free or low-cost AI tools can really make a difference.
That's right.
There's some pretty surprising stuff in here, I got to say.
Yeah. I think what really struck me as I was reading this was, the context that these universities are operating in right now. They're facing, increasing demands, but often with budgets that are either shrinking or not growing fast enough, and staff that are already stretched thin.
Right. It's like do more with less.
Exactly. And that's why open source AI is becoming so appealing.
Yeah, it's like a potential solution to this impossible situation.
It really is. I mean, it offers a way to significantly boost internal productivity and without breaking the bank.
That's huge.
But even more important, maybe even more importantly, is the ability to maintain strong control over their data.
Oh, absolutely.
Things like FERPA, compliance, accessibility, robust security, that's all critical for these institutions.
Yeah, I mean, you're dealing with student data, financial information,
Yeah,
all kinds of sensitive stuff.
exactly. And that's actually why even MIT advises against entering confidential information into those public AI services.
Right.
It's just too risky.
Right. It makes you wonder about all the people who are, putting their company secrets in ChatGPT.
Oh, yeah, that's a whole other conversation.
But that's why universities are looking so seriously at these self-hosted solutions.
Right. They want to keep everything in-house where they have complete oversight.
And we even have a great example of this in the article.
Oh, yeah.
Vanderbilt University decided to build their own internal generative AI platform
Oh, wow.
for that exact reason.
To keep their data under wraps.
Exactly. They don't want to send it out to some third-party AI provider.
That's smart.
Yeah, it shows, that they're serious about both the opportunities and the responsibilities that come with this technology.
Absolutely. It's a real strategic understanding of AI,
Yeah.
and, it shows a commitment to data stewardship.
Right. And the best part about this article is that it's not just talking about AI in general. You know,
Right.
it actually lays out 10 very specific examples of how it's being used in higher ed right now using open source tools.
Oh, wow. 10 examples.
10 concrete examples. That's what I love.
That's fantastic. That gives you something to really sink your teeth into.
Yeah. And it even lists some of the key tools that are being used. Names like Whisper Haystack, Lane Chain Hugging Face Models, and LMA.cpp. I think I'm pronouncing that right.
Yeah, those are some of the big players in the open source AI world.
Right. And it shows how accessible this stuff really is.
Absolutely. And potentially really cost effective.
Right. Because universities, they don't always have, tons of money to throw around.
No, they don't. And that's the beauty of open source. It removes that huge financial barrier.
Right. So you can actually start experimenting and implementing AI solutions without having to spend a fortune.
Exactly. And these are not, second-rate tools either.
No.
These are cutting-edge technologies.
Exactly. So let's jump into these examples.
Okay, let's do it.
The first one is an AI outreach platform for personalized communications.
Interesting. So what's that all about?
So this is basically transforming the way universities communicate with everyone.
Okay.
Prospective students, current students, alumni, you name it. Instead of sending out those generic, mass emails, this platform uses AI to generate content that's tailored to each individual recipient.
Oh. Right.
Like it can automatically respond to frequently asked questions
Okay.
and even figure out the best time to send messages for maximum impact.
That's powerful.
And of course, all the data is stored securely on the university's own servers.
That's key.
Yeah, they're not sending it out to some third-party marketing company or anything like that.
Right. It's all in-house.
Exactly. So think about the implications for marketing and admissions teams.
Oh, yeah. Huge efficiency gains.
Imagine being able to send personalized communications to thousands of people without having to hire a whole army of staff.
It's incredible it would free them up to focus on more strategic initiatives.
Right. And they could even use this platform to proactively identify students who might need extra help.
Oh, wow.
Like if their engagement pattern suggests they're at risk of not enrolling.
Yeah, that's amazing.
It's about being proactive rather than reactive.
Absolutely. It's like having a crystal ball that can predict student behavior.
Kind of, yeah. It's all about really understanding and anticipating student needs.
That's next level stuff.
So the next example is the Academic Pathway Chatbot, or Virtual Academic Advisor.
Okay, that sounds like something that could be really useful for students.
Yeah, this is basically a 247 virtual resource that students can access, through the university website or mobile app.
So they can get help whenever they need it.
Exactly. They can ask questions about course selection degree requirements, deadlines, university policies, all kinds of stuff.
Oh, wow, that's convenient.
And the chatbot pulls information from the university's knowledge base to make sure the answers are accurate and up to date.
So it's not just making things up.
No, it's using real information from the university.
That's important.
Yeah, and this frees up human advisors to focus on more complex issues.
Right, like career counseling or mental health support.
Exactly, things that really require that human touch.
So it's not replacing advisors, it's more like augmenting their abilities.
Right? It's handling those routine queries so that the human advisors can focus on the students who need more personalized guidance.
It's like a triage system for academic advising.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So for students, struggling with a course selection decision at like 2 in the morning, they can get help right away.
Without having to wait for office hours.
Yeah, and that can really reduce their anxiety and help them stay on track.
Absolutely. It's a huge win for students.
Okay, the third solution is the faculty virtual assistant and knowledge base.
Okay. What's that one all about?
So this is specifically designed for faculty and staff.
Okay.
It's like an internal AI-powered assistant.
Okay.
They can answer their questions about university procedures, HR guidelines, IT protocols, all that internal stuff.
Right. All this stuff that can be a real pain to find sometimes.
Exactly. So the article describes it as a campus-wide knowledge search engine, but with a conversational interface.
Oh, that's nice.
So you can access it through the intranet or even integrate it into platforms like MS Teams or Slack.
So it's right there in their workflow.
Exactly. So instead of having to search through these massive policy documents or send emails and wait for responses,
Right.
they can just ask the AI a question.
Oh, that's efficient.
Yeah. So like a faculty member could say, hey, what's the current policy on sabbatical applications? and get an answer immediately.
Oh, wow. That's so much faster than the traditional way.
Right. It saves a ton of time and frustration.
I can see how that would be really beneficial.
Yeah. And it ensures that everyone's working with the most up-to-date information.
That's key, too.
Absolutely. Okay. Moving on to number 4, the AI Research Literature Assistant.
Ooh, that sounds interesting.
Tell me more.
This one's all about speeding up academic research.
Okay, how does it do that?
So it can ingest huge amounts of research papers or connect directly to academic databases.
Okay.
And then it can basically synthesize all that information. So it can summarize key findings, extract critical insights, and even answer specific research questions.
Based on the existing literature.
Exactly. So let's say a researcher is starting a new project on sustainable energy solutions.
Okay.
They could ask the AI something like, what's the current state of research on this topic in developing nations?
Right.
And the AI would provide a concise overview and point them to the most relevant studies.
Wow, that would save so much time.
Well, absolutely.
Yeah.
Traditionally, researchers spend hours and hours, doing literature reviews.
Yeah, poring over papers, trying to find the key information.
Exactly. But this AI can do it in a fraction of the time.
It's like having a super-powered research assistant.
Yeah, exactly. It frees up the researchers to focus on the more creative and analytical aspects of their work.
That's where their real expertise lies.
Right. The AI handles the information gathering, and the researchers can focus on, making new discoveries.
It's a perfect partnership.
Absolutely. Okay,
Yeah.
the 5th example is the document summarization portal.
Okay, what's that one for?
So this is basically a tool for anyone who has to deal with large amounts of text.
Right, which is pretty much everyone in academia.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
faculty, staff, students, they can all use this.
Okay.
It's an internal web application where you can upload any document, research papers, policy briefs, meeting transcripts, whatever,
Gotcha.
and it'll generate a concise summary for you.
Oh, wow.
Like just one click and you get the gist of the whole document.
That's so convenient.
Right. And the key here is that the summarization process is powered by open source language models that are hosted on the university's own infrastructure.
So they're not sending sensitive information out to some third-party service?
Exactly. They're keeping it all in-house, which is essential for data privacy.
Absolutely, especially if you're dealing with confidential research findings or something like that.
Right. And the article emphasizes how user-friendly the interface is.
Okay.
It's literally just upload and get a summary.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, could really boost efficiency across the board.
No more wading through pages and pages of text.
Exactly. You can quickly grasp the key points of any document.
That's a game changer.
All right, next up we have the AI-powered IT help desk chatbot.
Ooh. I think I can guess what this one's about.
Yeah, I think anyone who's ever had a tech issue on campus can relate.
Oh, for sure. Those IT help desks can be a nightmare sometimes.
Yeah, so this chatbot is designed to handle those routine IT support issues and general help desk queries.
Okay.
So students, faculty, staff, they can all use it.
Got
They can
yeah.
describe their problem, like Wi-Fi connectivity issues or email syncing problems.
Right, the common stuff.
Exactly. And the chatbot will provide step-by-step troubleshooting instructions
Yeah.
based on the IT department's knowledge base.
So it's not just guessing, it's actually using real solutions.
Right. And it can even help with things like password resets. And if the problem's too complex, it can route the user to a human support staff member.
So it's like having a first line of defense for IT issues.
Exactly. It's available 24/7.
Oh, that's a huge improvement.
Yeah. And it frees up the human IT staff to focus on those really complex issues.
The ones that actually require their expertise.
Right. So it's a win-win for everyone.
Absolutely. It improves the user experience and makes the IT department more efficient.
Okay. The 7th solution is the virtual TA course Q&A assistant.
Okay, a virtual TA. That's an interesting concept.
Yeah, this one's specifically designed for students in individual courses.
Okay.
It's basically an AI-powered teaching assistant
Oh, cool.
that can answer student questions about the course content, homework assignments, key concepts, all that stuff.
Wow, that's pretty advanced.
Yeah, it's trained on all the relevant course materials,
Yeah.
the syllabus readings, lecture notes, everything.
So it really knows the course inside and out.
Exactly. And it's available 24/7 through the learning management system or a dedicated class forum.
So students can get help whenever they need it.
Exactly. The article compares it to a course-specific Stack Overflow.
I love that analogy.
Yeah, it's a great way to think about it.
So students can ask their questions, get answers right away.
Right. And it reduces the number of repetitive questions that instructors have to deal with.
Oh, yeah. That can be a real time suck for instructors.
It's like having an army of TAs at your disposal.
but without the actual cost of hiring a bunch of TAs.
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
a much more efficient way to provide student support.
And it helps students stay on track with the material.
Absolutely. Okay, number 8 on the list is the AI-assisted content generator for course materials.
Okay, so this one's for the instructors.
Yeah, this is all about helping faculty create and improve their teaching materials.
Okay, like what kind of materials?
So it can generate things like quiz questions, practice problems, outlines for lesson plans, even initial drafts of lecture notes.
Wow, that's a lot.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing, and it's all based on existing textual content.
So the instructor would give it like a chapter from a textbook or something.
Exactly, and the AI would then suggest, multiple choice questions, discussion prompts, even a basic structure for presentation slides.
That sounds incredibly useful.
It could save instructors so much time and effort.
Yeah, but I do wonder, does it risk homogenizing the course content?
That's a good point.
Like, you don't want every course to end up using the same generic materials.
Right, and that's why it's crucial for instructors to retain control over the process.
Exactly. They need to critically evaluate the AI-generated content and make sure it aligns with their teaching style and the specific needs of their students.
Right, it's a tool, not a replacement for their expertise.
Exactly. It's about augmenting their abilities, not replacing them.
Okay, so number 9 is intelligent document processing for administrative forms.
Okay, so this one's all about bureaucracy.
Yeah, it's tackling those administrative hurdles that can be such a pain.
Oh, for sure.
So this system automates the processing of all those common administrative documents.
Like what kind of documents?
Transcripts, enrollment forms, financial aid applications, HR, paperwork, all that stuff.
Oh, right. The stuff that nobody enjoys dealing with.
Exactly. So it uses OCR, optical character recognition,
Okay.
to read the text from scanned documents or PDFs.
So it can actually extract the information.
Yeah, and then it uses NLP, natural language processing,
Okay.
to understand the meaning of that text.
Interesting. So it can figure out what the document's actually saying.
Exactly. So it can then extract key information like names, ID numbers, requested actions, all that stuff.
Oh, wow. That's impressive.
And it can automatically enter that data into the relevant databases or flag it for human review if needed.
So it's not just about digitizing the documents, it's about actually making sense of the information.
Right. It's about streamlining the whole process.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, so think about all the time and effort that could be saved.
Oh, yeah, it'd be huge.
No more manual data entry, no more human error.
And it would free up administrative staff to focus on more important tasks.
Exactly. Things that actually require their expertise.
Like helping students.
Right. And of course, the system is implemented on-premise.
Okay.
So the university retains control over all the data.
That's crucial.
Yeah, it's a big win for data security.
All right, last but not least, we have the student feedback analyzer.
Ooh. Okay, this one sounds interesting.
Tell me about it.
So this tool is all about getting valuable insights from student feedback.
Okay.
Specifically, the qualitative feedback that students provide in course evaluations.
Right, not just the numerical ratings.
Exactly. It's about understanding the why behind those ratings.
That's important.
Yeah, so the system uses natural language processing to analyze the sentiment expressed in those open-ended comments.
So it can tell if students are generally positive or negative.
Right. And it can also identify recurring themes and topics.
Oh, that's smart.
Yeah, so it can tell you what students are consistently praising or complaining about.
That's valuable information.
Absolutely. And it all gets anonymized and then compiled into reports for faculty and academic departments.
So they can actually use that feedback to improve their courses.
Exactly. It's about moving beyond those surface-level ratings and really understanding the student experience.
And making data-driven decisions about how to enhance teaching quality.
Right. And of course, it's all done within the university's secure IT environment.
Of course.
So no data privacy concerns.
It's good to hear.
Yeah. So those are the 10 examples.
Wow, that was a lot to take in.
Yeah, there's so much going on in this space. It's really exciting.
It is, and it seems like open source AI is really starting to make a difference in higher ed.
It is. And the article concludes by, emphasizing some key advantages.
Okay, like what?
Minimal financial investment.
Right.
Greater control over data. Enhanced FERPA compliance.
Yeah.
Improved accessibility for all sorts of users, and strengthened security protocols.
That's a pretty impressive list.
It is. And once these systems are up and running, they can pretty much operate autonomously.
Oh, wow.
So you get ongoing gains in productivity.
That's incredible.
It really is. But I do wonder how much expertise is needed to actually implement and maintain these systems.
That's a great question.
Like, you can't just download some open source software and expect it to work perfectly, right?
No, definitely not. You need people who understand this stuff.
Right. You need data scientists, software developers, people who can actually build and customize these systems.
And keep them running smoothly.
It's exactly. And you also need the right infrastructure.
Right. Servers, cloud resources, all that stuff.
So it's not just about the software itself. It's about having the right people and the right technology in place.
Exactly. It's an investment, but it's one that can pay off in a big way.
So, thinking about all these applications, it really makes you wonder, what else could be done with this technology?
Yeah.
Are there other areas within universities or even beyond education that could benefit from these open source AI approaches?
I'm sure there are. We've only just scratched the surface.
It feels like we're on the verge of a real revolution in how we solve problems and get things done.
Absolutely. It's a really exciting time to be alive.
It is.